Welcome to the season review for FPL. Got a bit excited there, but don't worry. We still got the kind of streaming gene in here. We did a Champions League fantasy stream yesterday. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in for that. And here we are again. What you see here is not my Gameweek 38 team, clearly, but my Gameweek 1 team. I'm going to go through every single game week, talk about the mistakes I made, talk about the things I did well, when I used the chips, and analyse what I could have improved on, especially heading into next season. And we just had the playoff final for the Championship, and Nottingham Forest are back for the first time since 1999, which is when I was born, but there you go. And it should be great, and I already see Harry eyeing up Sam Surridge. That will be very interesting. I think he came off the bench, actually, for Keenan Davis, another kind of legend at the 4.5 million bracket, so that's definitely one to keep an eye on. But I'm going to also answer your questions and comments as we go through every single week, so I want to keep this interactive. I realise obviously it won't be as hectic as a deadline stream would be, and that gives us more opportunity to go through these questions quite calmly, as well as talk about my actual game weeks and how everything went together. And I've also got a list of all the transfers I've made throughout the season, when I've taken hits, and I'm going to be analysing all of that, the amount of hits I've taken all season, all of that information we provided to you. And I'll also try to, as we go along for each game week, tell you what rank I was in and how that kind of fluctuated from week to week. But let's go through your questions first before I dissect my Game Week 1 team, which, as you can see, very interesting. And a few players actually still made it into my Game Week 38 team, but not many actually. So let's go through your questions. Welcome, Danny G. And yeah, like I already said, Harry, eyeing up Sam Surridge, that will be very interesting indeed. And I'm going to do more research throughout the summer into these promoted teams, because they're the ones that I have less information on, but I will be having more information on those teams over the summer. Welcome, S. Good to see you here once again. When will we get to know the price of FPL players? Well, one thing we are going to find out fairly soon, I think the 16th of June it will be, is the fixtures. In terms of prices, that should be throughout, I'd say, June and July. So I'd say early July, I think the game will be active once again. We'll be able to make our own first drafts for next season, and we should find out some prices just before then. So I would anticipate maybe mid-June. I could be completely wrong about that, by the way, but that is kind of my initial thoughts on that. Welcome, Mohammed. I'm doing well. What about you? Congratulations on winning the Champions League. And a lot of people wrote Real Madrid off, especially the English media. And there you go. Real Madrid just, they're something else in the Champions League, aren't they? Yeah, I agree, Harry. Start of July. Preseason begins July, fixtures released in June. Yes, the season's actually going to start earlier than usual. I'm not sure the exact date, but because of the congested schedule, we've got the World Cup in November. We're going to cram in a lot of Champions League and Premier League action into the first few months of the season. So it's going to be hectic, and therefore I think FPL will start even sooner than it did last year. And I believe it was around July. It was quite late actually in the last season, but it will definitely be earlier this time around. I wouldn't be surprised if in late June, so literally a month from now, we're going to have access to the game and we're going to see some prices at least. So let's wait and see though. Welcome, Sidindra. No worries there. I have exams to prepare for. Good luck with those, Sidindra. But I'll still watch the replay. Anyway, you had an amazing season and you helped me a lot. Can't wait for your other content. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate you dropping by, and all the best with your exams, and hopefully you rest well. Yeah, Ralph isn't even going to be a consultant. Some United fans are a bit cynical about that, and they think it's because he's been exposing the club a little bit too much. But I'd rather have that kind of honesty, especially when you've been kind of running things so poorly for many years. And speaking of poorly, that voice crack was quite awful. Yeah, August 6th, Premier League returns. That's exactly the day I had in mind, but I wasn't exactly sure. I think it is the 6th of August. Let's wait and see. But it's going to be even earlier than usual. Not much of a break, you could say. For some reason I thought S said can't wait to get sacked again. Yeah, can't wait to get started again. Yes, I do want a little bit of a break though, but there's not really that much of a break in terms of content. There's still more F1 fantasy going around. There should be a UCL fantasy season review within the next week or so. I'll let you guys know if any of you are interested in that. And there's going to be FPL content for next season. This is going to be the last FPL video of the 2021-22 season. So this is the kind of season review I'm looking to do, and I've been planning to do for a week or two now. This was the first FPL season starting Game Week 5. My rank is 1.5 million. The fact that you missed the first 4 game weeks, really, it's really impressive. I think you could have easily broken into the top million and probably an even better rank than that. Greenwood is actually a great asset and great pick, yes. Show eyes off the pitch antics. There was a drop-off, though, ever since Ronaldo joined, and I'm not just pinning that on Ronaldo, but before Ronaldo joined the club, Greenwood was on a flyer. He started the season with 3 consecutive returns. I remember he scored against Wolves in Game Week 2 as well. United board don't like people who show how to run a football club. Well, if that's the case, then you can't really be too surprised if you're not really going to make progress in the future. I mean, look, I don't get it. They got him in a consultancy role, and now if they did sack him for that reason, then that is a bit, like what was the point of even appointing him in the first place? But let's go for my Game Week 1 team, and I'll keep going through your questions and comments as we go along. But let me analyse the players that, in my opinion, I think I did well with. So just for context, with Game Week 1, I actually scored 102 points. So a very good start to the season. And in terms of my rank, let me just get this up quickly. I was 253 overall, 253k in the world. A very good start. And that, I think, gave me the platform to push on from there. I was consistently in the top 200k throughout the whole season, pretty much. That was my lowest rank, Game Week 1, but still a very good platform. A lot of people with 100 plus scores, as you can see. So let's go through this one by one. Robert Sanchez, I think, was a good pick because you're always looking for that 4.5 million goalkeeper that's going to offer you good value. And what I really looked at with Robert Sanchez is a Brighton defence that were very solid last season, or should I say 2 seasons ago now. And they were showing some signs, even in terms of underlying numbers, of pushing on from that and doing even better in the following season. And they ended up doing so, but there was a large period where Brighton weren't really at it, offensively and defensively. They weren't getting the clean sheets, they weren't scoring enough goals, and Brighton, as always, not really performing in terms of their XG and XA and converting it into the actual clean sheets and goals that you want. But I still think Sanchez was a good pick from the get-go, and I could understand why I did that. And I think Tsimikas, right now, it does seem a bit weird why I went for him, but he was actually in my starting 11. I think a lot of us had him actually looking for that 4 million cheap defender. Robertson was injured for the first few games of the season, and Trent, of course, he's kind of always a season keeper. That's the kind of aim whenever we have Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, there's a few players in this kind of 15-man squad that I look back on and I think that was a bad decision, and I'll go through all of them obviously one by one and then try to go through Game Week 2. But Luke Shaw and Ayling really stand out to me as 2 players that I really got wrong, I think. So Luke Shaw had an incredible summer in the Euros and he had a good season just beforehand. So it did make sense in a way. But ultimately, you look at United's clean sheets, even when they finished second, they weren't really there. Luke Shaw was a decent asset, but he was nothing spectacular. And I think he started the season, if I'm not mistaken, at 5.5 million, and he was owned by like 50% of the game. Now, in hindsight, I should have gone for probably a City defender or maybe a Chelsea defender. I think that was the way to go. And Luke Ayling, I mean, I thought Leeds would do all right in the following season, not be in a relegation scrap. In the end, they did survive. But Luke Ayling was an awful call. Now, I actually benched him in this game, 3rd on my bench, and he got a goal against Manchester United, but they did concede 6 in that fixture. But I think Luke Shaw and Ayling were 2 really big mistakes for me. What I didn't get wrong, however, was the captaincy. Yes, Bruno outscored Salah in Game Week 1, but I always kind of get the captaincy right in Game Week 1. I tend to go for Salah, and I always have another player like Sterling a few years ago. This time I was Bruno Fernandes, who do very well. So those 2 carried me in that week, as you can see. 34 points from Salah with the captaincy and 20 from Bruno Fernandes. Harvey Barnes, one of the 2 players, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that actually made it into my Game Week 38 team, which is incredible when you put it that way. The other one, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Everyone else, as you can see in this team, did not feature in my final team in Game Week 38, which is quite remarkable. Barnes was actually my last transfer that I made in this whole campaign. He actually started the season pretty poorly. I liked the look of him in the Community Shield final, and I thought Leicester would be pretty good actually, and perhaps finish in the top 6, top 7, and be quite competitive. It wasn't meant to be. Maddison ended up being the Leicester midfielder of choice. Harvey Barnes was arguably a mistake, but I think the main ones that I really look at and I think I definitely got wrong were Luke Shaw and Ayling. And I think getting that defence nailed on from the start gives you the platform to make those transfers in the midfield and the attack, where you're going to gain more points generally, although this was the season where the attackers definitely fell short. But you look at this, Antonio with an incredible start to the season. We all know this. The first 3 game weeks he was on fire. We'll talk about Game Week 3 very shortly. I did captain him in that game week, but a great start for him. Danny Ings with 7 points as well. Let's actually remember, he had a very good start to his Aston Villa career. If you look at the first 3 game weeks, 7, 8 and 4 points. Very decent returns. But after that, it just went wrong for him. Yes, he did get a return there in Game Week 5 against Everton, but really poor after that. So a lot of things did go wrong for certain players. Ivan Toney as well. We all thought he would kick it off with a flyer. Didn't score against Arsenal in their 2-0 win, but he did have a decent performance all round. And I think Ivan Toney really came to life as an FPL asset once Brentford changed things around and were more offensive. I think they put Toney in a more offensive role. He wasn't kind of dropping as deep as he was in the beginning of the season. That gave him the license to score the goals and be in those positions where he's really dangerous. So Ivan Toney definitely improved as an asset as the season went on. And then you see Ben Foster. He was just a second goalkeeper, an enabler really. Ben White there on my bench first. Conceded 2 goals, a nightmare debut for Arsenal there. And Brownhill as my 4.5 million midfielder. I think he ended up being 4.4 or 4.3 when the season concluded. Let me just double check that. 4.3. So there you go. Overall, I think it was a decent squad that I chose for the beginning, and I got 102 points in Game Week 1. So not a bad start. Let me know what you think of this Game Week 1 team, but I think Luke Shaw and Ayling were the kind of big mistakes I made there. So let's go through your questions and comments. Welcome, Wei Seng. How are you doing? Good to see Forest coming up. It's interesting one rather than these boring teams like Luton, Sheffield, Huddersfield. To be fair though, Huddersfield, for example, apart from the other year, I think around 2017 when they were promoted, it's nice to see a team like that no people are really kind of like expecting them to be in the Premier League. I do like that kind of story. In terms of football, you might be right. Nottingham Forest were managing the game a lot today, but typically they're very offensive. I think since their new manager came in, they've scored the most goals in the Championship. But that final, I'll be honest, was a bit boring. But Huddersfield should have got a penalty. I have to say that. And I didn't really have a preference in terms of who went up, but I think they should have got a penalty. Welcome, Ahmed. I've been buzzing this week with 14 UCLs, with a great journey throughout the knockout stages, and underwent a surgery for my cancer. Now I'm with no cancer. Congratulations, Mohammed. It's great to hear. I remember you told me that a few weeks ago, and fantastic week for you, mate. You've got to celebrate and just enjoy it. I mean, that's a fantastic, even better news with the recovery, with the surgery, more so than the 14 UCLs, but congratulations, mate. Yes, Wei Seng, I think DS Game Week 1 template, for sure. With Mane set to leave, probably to Bayern Munich, I think Diaz could be a very popular pick. I could see him with 40% ownership or more. Great news, Mohammed, and congratulations on UCL too. Exactly, Harry. It's great to hear. Do you think Potter's underrated? I think so, but maybe he doesn't get enough credit in the media, funnily enough. I mean, typically when there's a young, British manager doing very well, he typically gets a lot of hype. It's a good thing he's not really getting that kind of attention, but I think with a better striker, Brighton would be top 8, I think, easily. But with Newcastle on the rise, you've got Leicester, who are going to be better next season. Brighton might struggle to push on from what they've done this season, but still, underrated manager for sure. Real Madrid won 5 UCLs in the last 8 years. No matter who the manager is, players always deliver, and that's key. That is true, but Ancelotti is a mastermind of the Champions League. And if you ask me for a kind of Champions League all-time 11 and the best manager, Ancelotti would be that manager for me. 4 Champions Leagues, I think 2 of Milan and 2 of Madrid. I mean, he knows how to manage these games, and Madrid find this way of staying in the match even when the other team is dominating, so to speak. They are clinical, they manage their games well, their midfield is incredible. So those things are crucial. And I typically say, Real Madrid have a pretty poor defence, but they were really good yesterday, and Courtois was the difference maker. I think he built the platform, gave the defenders the confidence, and he was incredible. Also got 2,964 rank in UCL Fantasy in my first ever season. Fair play, mate, on UCL Fantasy with 945 points. Could have got more if I didn't go with all Bayern players and got punished in the quarterfinal. Great week. Yeah, to be fair though, we sometimes fall into these traps, and I actually had a lot of Bayern Munich players myself. And yesterday, actually, one thing I've kind of done wrong, and I'll probably talk about this in a UCL Fantasy season review, is kind of backing one team to win it, and in the end, they end up not doing so. A few years ago, I didn't really have the key Bayern players when they won the Champions League, like Kingsley Coman, who scored the winning goal. Last year, Kai Havertz scored the winning goal. I didn't have him, and I mainly had City players. And this year, I had only 4 Madrid players in the starting 11, and Eder Militao was on my bench. Other than that, I don't really regret too much, and the Liverpool players, as I anticipated, got points even with no clean sheet. I was very surprised, though, to see Bayern Munich, or not Bayern Munich, I just saw a comment there, my bad, to see Liverpool not score a goal. That really shocked me, to be honest. What changes do you think we'll see next season in FPL? I think they will remove the bench boost, and I think there will be a few changes in terms of positions. So someone like Heung-min Son could be a forward. I'm not entirely sure what else. 2FA, so two-factor authentication, which is just a really key part in general of security, I think will be implemented finally. In terms of the actual game itself, though, there could be a new chip. I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but Yeah, I think there will be some changes like that. Will Sane or Coman leave if Mane joining? Actually, Nabry was saying I think Coman and Sane will stay, especially Coman, who is a key player for Bayern Munich. I think Nabry's the one who's linked with a move away, and Arsenal could be in for him. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but 40 million euros for Nabry, I think is a really good deal. Robertson versus Diaz is the third Liverpool asset. Well, arguably it could be Salah that shouldn't be in our team in Game Week 1. That's something we'll talk more about during the summer. But I think Trent, Diaz will be the top two, or the most popular Liverpool assets actually, and then maybe Robertson will be the third. Yeah, I can see why you don't like Thibaut Courtois as a Chelsea fan. Annoying snake, but too OP. Yeah, even in 2014, when he was at Atletico Madrid and he was also with Belgium, I always said, I like the look of this keeper. And obviously, he was already quite established from 2011 with Atletico Madrid. But yeah, he's now, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the world. I think that performance cemented him as that. Do you think Benzema goal should have stood? I think so. It did hit off the Liverpool player. Obviously, some people, I saw a few things about the rule book and stuff. Now look, just in terms of my interpretation of the rules and what happened, I think it should have stood, personally. Limitless chip is needed in FPL. I agree. I would like to see that, but not too sure if they will end up implementing that because UCL Fantasy already have it. They can still do it. It's just I don't see it happening, but you never know. It'd be great to see. I think it definitely livens things up a little bit. So let's go to Game Week 2. Like you already saw there, 102 points there in Game Week 1. A really good start. Game Week 2, a little bit worse. So I got 76 points overall. And let me just check my rank in Game Week 2. So I ended up actually going up to 208k. In general, it was a bit more of a low-scoring week. And I didn't make a transfer. Typically, from Game Week 1 to 2, I always make a transfer. But I actually rolled it, and I used 2 in Game Week 3, as we'll discuss very soon. But as you can see, Robert Sanchez there with a clean sheet, Trent with a 12-pointer, and Tsimikas with 11 points. So they actually played Burnley there. They won 2-0. Salah or Bruno, I remember this. It was a really big thing back in that moment. Who do we captain this between Salah and Fernandes? They were the most popular options. I wanted to go for Bruno, a bit more of a differential in that week, and actually lost out on a point because Bruno got a yellow card. Technically 2 points actually because Salah got the clean sheet point there. So both of them kind of flopped there. But Greenwood with a double-digit return, and as I said, he started the season really, really well. So he got 3 goals in 3 consecutive games there, and he got the bonus points against Southampton. He was crucial, and United were pretty much top of the league around that point. So, Greenwood was really good option in that moment. And then Harvey Barnes once again blanking, so that was a shame. Luke Shaw, though, I believe he got the assist, if I'm not mistaken. No, he got, let's see, so yeah, they conceded the goal to Southampton, my bad, yeah. So they conceded the goal to Southampton, and let's see, wait, how did he end up getting 4 points? I'm probably bugging out here. I need to actually refresh my recollection of something. Oh, he got 2 bonus points, yeah. Now, this is all coming back to me now, just going through, a trip to memory lane. So he got 2 bonus points despite not getting an assist and conceding a goal. I mean, he had a decent performance in that game, but I remember a lot of non-Luke Shaw owners were pretty annoyed about that. But there you go, the defence really came up clutch for me. Returns from every single one of them. Salah and Bruno blank, but Greenwood came up with the goods. Antonio with 16 points. Him and Benrahma were on another level in the first 3 game weeks. Ings with another return, as I said before. Ivan Toney with another blank, and then everyone on my bench also blanked. I think Ben White was actually injured heading into Game Week 2 and 3. He missed out those games against Chelsea and Man City, but once again, solid progress. A green arrow to start the season. 2 green arrows technically to 200 and 8k pretty much. So a really good start to the season, and I think that gave me the platform really to end up finishing in a decent rank. But yeah, let's see your comments again. How will Samba be for a second goalkeeper? I think he could be a decent one, but I'm always a bit skeptical about these kind of newly promoted sides and their goalkeepers. I typically favour those that are more established in the Premier League. That's the way I kind of see it. I favour the attackers more so than not, and Nottingham Forest are more known for their attack actually. When are you going to do a next season team? Well, when the game goes live, I'll do like a first draft, but there's no need for me to really make a team right now. You can't even do so anyway. I hope to see Gnabry in the Premier League. What a finisher he is. I think he'll develop as a beast if he joins Liverpool, but any team taking is okay. The thing is, though, I just don't see him going to Liverpool because he'd be on the bench. It'd be Salah, who's probably going to stay. Jota and Diaz, maybe. That could be the front 3, but you never know. That could be a shout as well. I think if Gnabry goes back to the Premier League, I could see him going to Arsenal or Chelsea. I don't know why, but one of those two clubs makes sense, I think. Thanks, mate. Do you play any games or do gaming other than fantasy? Yes, I do. I've kind of eased off a little bit in recent years, but I do. Recently, I'm playing Bioshock 2. And then, I play FIFA from time to time. I hate that game, but, I just play it with some mates as well. That's a great question by FPL Harry. Welcome. Thank you very much. And obviously, a great content creator here as well. Which goalkeeper do you fancy? Sanchez again at 4.5 million. I think ultimately I need to see the prices before kind of finalising that. But Sanchez does interest me. I think Ramsdale will be 5 million. And Arsenal failed to keep a clean sheet in the last 10 games, really. So I'm not too sure about Ramsdale. But Sanchez would definitely pique my interest. Not too sure about the newly promoted goalkeepers, to be honest. I have no Antonio, Benrahma and Bruno in the early week, which I chose Son instead. Yeah, Son, I think, took a while to get going. He did score, I think, the goal against City in Gameweek 1. But, Spurs were awful under Nuno Espirito Santo. So, yeah, I mean, look, Bruno, Benrahma and Antonio was the template in the first 3 game weeks, but that quickly dissipated. And I think Bruno got a return in Gameweek 4, and I'll talk about that very soon, but I got rid of him in that game week, actually. And Bruno, ever since Ronaldo joined, was just kind of a non-option, really. My learning this season is to not go for every double game week player and select players who can actually bring points. Example, likes of Dennis King. That's a really good point. I remember captaining Dennis with their double game week. He got a red card. Now, the red card itself is unfortunate, but in terms of captaining a player from a pretty poor side, I think that's really good advice then, a really good point that you make. And there's definitely a lot of things, we're going to go through this in the season review, that we could have done better. Who are you looking at cheap enablers? I'm interested to see Gordon's price. Obviously, we're all speculating at this point, but I think Gordon would be like 5 million or 5.5. I could easily see him going up to those prices. I don't think he'd be 6 million or above, but you never know. It's all down to FPL headquarters and how they kind of rank this. Planning on doing FIFA videos? No way. I honestly hate FIFA, and all you're going to see is someone who rages and talks about how bad the game is. Yeah, Raya's a really good shout. I don't see his price rising. I'm a bit concerned about Brentford, though. In recent seasons, a kind of newly promoted side that overachieve and do better than we expected, so Sheffield United and Leeds, they end up struggling. It's like second season syndrome. I'd be a bit concerned about Brentford in that regard. I want them to do well, and I think Raya, his distribution, for example, is exceptional, and they could get some clean sheets, but I would be a bit worried actually about Raya and Brentford in the second season, so let's just wait and see. But honestly, in terms of these prices, I need to see them first, and then I'll get a good idea of which goalkeepers and which enablers I really want. But yeah, in terms of cheap enablers, that's a really good question. I need to think about that one. I think we'll just think about that one as we go through the other game weeks. But yeah, that's a fantastic question by FPL Harry. And yeah, Wasting, I completely agree. I think Raya's a good shout. It's just I'm a bit concerned about Brentford. So game week 3 now. This is going to be a bit of a weird kind of video. I've never kind of done a season review of this ilk before. 68 points, so kind of a natural regression in terms of points here, but pretty much as we go through, it becomes a bit less of a high-scoring game week, we could say, but let's see what rank I was in game week 3. So I actually got another green arrow up to 152k in game week 3. So Robert Sanchez blanked with 2 points. Ayling got 2 points as well. I mean, what do you expect from a Leeds defender? Trent got 4 points, so I think he got an assist in that game. Yeah, against Chelsea, he got 2 bonus points. Wow, this is all coming back to me now. I remember that. The red card for Reece James. Wow, that feels like such a long time ago already. 1 second, by the way. My website kind of crashed there. Luke Shaw got a clean sheet. Wow, hallelujah. A United defender getting a clean sheet there against Wolves. Greenwood scored the winner. He got 8 points. Bruno there with 2. Benrahma I got in as my new transfer, chasing last week's points. So in Game Week 3, I did one simple move. Barnes to Benrahma. So I got rid of one guy who kept on blanking for another one in Benrahma. Salah with a double-digit return. And in terms of the captaincy, I got it spot on with Antonio, 22 points. I captained my highest scoring player. I think that was a key reason why I ended up getting a significant and healthy green arrow. Ivan Toney with a return, the first one of the season at that point against Aston Villa. He scored a goal. He was very disappointing, as you can see, pretty much for the first 12 game weeks of the season, or 11 game weeks, and it really took him a while to get going, but he did get a return there. And Danny Ings with another assist, so pretty happy with the front line. That was the best performing part of my team. Not many times we're going to say this throughout this season review. Foster, Brownhill, Tsimikas and White all on the bench there. And yeah, pretty much I think Tsimikas made way for Robertson in that game against Chelsea. So they brought Robertson straight back in. Yeah, he only got 4 points, or should I say 4 minutes there against Chelsea. So still a very good start to the season at this point. And I think it's very crucial to get those starts nailed on. Yeah, I bet that would be funny as hell. It might be, but I'd be a completely different character. I think FIFA brings out the worst in people, in my opinion. Around which month FPL will be live again? Next month. So basically between June and July. I would anticipate late June, early July. That would be my guess, especially with the season starting even earlier, around the 6th of August. Which premiums are we going for next season? Obviously, very early to tell. If Son is still a midfielder, I think I would go for Heung-min Son. But if he's a forward, that's where I would reconsider, because I think with the 5 subs being such a big part next season, I would favour someone like Harry Kane, who rarely gets substituted early. Heung-min Son could get more 70 and 80 minute appearances than 90 minutes, and that would put me off a little bit. And also, I would expect Son to be 11.5 to 12 million next season, and Harry Kane will be a similar price. And if they're both forwards, for example, I would go for Harry Kane. But definitely, one of those two would pique my interest. Haaland definitely is someone I want to go for. I think he's going to be 12 million as well, or 11.5. Other ones, I think Luis Diaz is kind of a really good option. Obviously, you asked for premium specifically, so you're mainly looking at the defenders. I think Joao Cancelo, Trent would definitely be the top 2 in defenders. Reece James is always a great option, especially in terms of attacking potential. But I would be a bit concerned about Chelsea defensively with all the outgoings with Christensen, Azpilicueta, Marcos Alonso, and Rudiger, most importantly of all. So yeah, I think Cancelo, Trent in defence. Midfield Son, if he remains a midfielder. Salah, of course, we can't discount him. He's still a really good option. I think he'll be 13 million potentially. Haaland, yeah, those are the kind of main premiums I'd look at. Welcome, Genius Gamer. Good to see you here once again. Yeah, Wei saying, so apparently the Premier League should start on the 6th of August. Nottingham Forest are back in the Premier League for the first time in 23 years. Yeah, when I was born, 1999. United were treble winners at that point. How things change very quickly. Yeah, it's good to see them back. Arsenal, I'm saying it right now, as an Arsenal fan, when we play in their place, I think Arsenal are going to lose. Nottingham Forest are going to win that game. And that's been the case the last 2 times Arsenal have gone there in the FA Cup. Yeah, so looking forward to that. In my opinion, FPL should have 2 free hits, just like Wildcard. I agree. I think that's actually a really good feature that they did this season, only because of all the postponements and stuff like that. But 2 free hits, actually, I actually like 2 free hits in a way. Maybe people disagree, more traditionalists, but 2 free hits seems like a great idea. I agree there. Deadline should be at least 15 minutes before the start of the game. Yep, I agree. UCL Fantasy is pretty much when kickoff happens. That is when the deadline passes. Instead of bench boost, we should be able to sub a player from the bench. I completely agree with all of those. In terms of subbing players, that's where I maybe disagree a bit more. But the rest I'm completely in agreement with. Maybe the subs, as much as I like it in UCL Fantasy, I'm not so sure if that kind of micromanagement translates as well into FPL, but it's still a really good suggestion. Thank you, Jared, and it's good to see you once again. Same with everyone else. Let's try to get this video to 100 likes. I realize, obviously, it's a bit of a calmer stream. We're going through your questions, talking about some different topics, and we're going through my FPL team throughout the whole season, so you can see a kind of recap of what I've done right, what I've done wrong, and how we can improve for next season. But as I said, in Gameweek 3, another green arrow. I did 1 transfer, Barnes to Benrahma, and I got the captaincy spot on here in Gameweek 3. Captaincy is so crucial, and I think I have improved from the last few seasons in terms of captaincy, where I've tended to kind of get it wrong sometimes. I think this season I've definitely improved and taken a step forward in that regard. So let's now go to Gameweek 4. And, I've got the notes here, by the way, in terms of the transfers, the points, and the hits I've taken. But still, some things are kind of clicking back to me as I'm doing this stream. So it's a lot of improvisation here. 74 points in Game Week 4. And I took the first hit of the season in Game Week 4 there. So the transfers I made were Bruno Fernandes, Danny Ings, and Tsimikas to Jota, Ronaldo, of course, on his debut against Newcastle, and Cody. This was for a -4 hit. Now, I actually took a hit involving Cody and I benched him, and that ended up being a mistake, you could say, but who was I really going to bench for him? You could say maybe Ivan Toney. And look at this, Antonio got sent off, and this was straight after the first 3 game weeks where he was incredible. He got -1 points, but good thing I brought in Ronaldo and I captained him. So yeah, that was a great debut from him, and I think United won that game 4-0. I got rid of Bruno. He scored a late goal. It was a really good goal. I think it was outside the box, but in the end I think I was quite happy with the hit. In terms of the rank, I actually got yet another green arrow to 121k. So yeah, I'd say I was pretty consistent throughout the whole season in terms of the overall rank, but another green arrow, very, very happy with that. And anything else really to comment on? Arsenal with the first clean sheet of the season. I think it was against Norwich, yeah. Ben White got a yellow card, I believe. Yes, he did, against Norwich there. But 5 points, pretty happy. 12 points again from Trent Alexander-Arnold. And they played Leeds, yeah, so that makes complete sense. He got an assist in that game and 3 bonus points. Luke Shaw there with 5 points. But United assets quickly turned to... I was going to say a word that I shouldn't say, so I'll refrain from that. Greenwood with another attack in return, but after the first 4 game weeks, things went downhill for United and the likes of Greenwood. Diego Jota there with 3 points, Ben Rama with 3 as well, Ivan Toney with another blank, but overall, really, really good. I was happy with that Ronaldo captaincy and transfer. I don't really have too many objections to what I did here, but bringing in Cody, he got a clean sheet and he was part of a hit. Yeah, not the greatest in that regard there. So let's see, what else do we have? Wei Seng says, Neymar and Koundé to Chelsea, here we go. Not too sure about Neymar, but Koundé, yeah. And to be fair, there's not many places Neymar could go. Madrid is possible, maybe. Barcelona, but they're just in deep, deep trouble financially. Bayern Munich, I don't really see Neymar going there. I think Mane will. Yeah, not many teams can afford Neymar. Chelsea would be one of them, you could say, especially with the new owner. Koundé is more likely. I think he's always been linked to Chelsea. I still prefer Eriksen and Hazard. The thing is with Hazard, I'm just not sure if that's really the way to go. You know, yeah, I don't think he's on the same level anymore. Do you think Forest will be good next season? They could be. I need to do more research on them, but I think 2 of the 3 promoted teams will go down initially, by the way. This is before any transfers happen for them, and a lot could change in my viewings. I think Leeds are going to struggle a lot next season, especially if Rafinha and Calvin Phillips leave. Brentford's another one that I'm a bit wary of. But look, you never know. And people always look a lot to last season and what happened in the table. But, you know, it's a new season. Anything can happen. Yes, 2 free hits with 1 in each half. I completely agree. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, I think that would be a great addition to next season. Salah form is not consistent anymore. Well, this year, yes, in 2022, but he's still been a very consistent player over the course of the season. But I do agree, since even African Cup of Nations and before that, his level has definitely dropped. And I think he had a decent game yesterday, but Courtois was just a wall, really. And Salah, I just don't think is as essential. I think Diaz could definitely cover him, especially with Mane set to leave. But that was Game Week 3, the first hit I took of the season, but it's still another green arrow. And things got even better in Game Week 5, where I got 71 points and actually went up, I think, to 55k in the world. So a really great start to the season. I think it's really crucial to nail it on. And one thing I have to note is actually the template was tremendously strong this season, especially at the beginning, and most people had similar teams, you know, with Ben White and Ayling, Luke Shaw as the kind of defenders with Trent. Most people had Sanchez and Foster. Then obviously Salah and Bruno were part of the template, and then you had a few others. Ronaldo became a really strong part of the template. I think he was actually the most transferred in player of the whole season in Game Week 4. I think over 2 million managers went in for him. And actually my most viewed video was the Ronaldo being added to FPL. So yeah, Ronaldo was obviously a really big topic at that time. And look at that, Ivan Toney here. He was a really big part of my green arrow. He got a goal and an assist against Wolves. So yes, I got 0 points from Cody, but I got 12 from Toney. So very happy with that performance. Didn't have too many of those when I had him in the team. But Greenwood started blanking there, as you can see. Ronaldo, I think, got a goal against West Ham, if I'm not mistaken. And then Benrahma with a double-digit return. Very lucky with that. And that was all down to that deflected goal he scored against Man United. He got 10 points there. Luke Shaw with a blank. Ben Foster as well with a blank. Let me see why I started him, actually. I need to remember all the fixtures. So yeah, he played Norwich, that makes sense. And Robert Sanchez played Leicester. Yeah, so overall, actually at the beginning of the season, one thing I noticed is that I got the goalkeeper decisions right for the most part. So whenever I would bench a goalkeeper, I actually typically gained points from that decision making. Ayling once again blanking. And I think by this point, I was starting to realise this was a big mistake going for Luke Ayling, as you can see. Trent Alexander-Arnold on the bench with 0 points. So yeah, he didn't even feature against Crystal Palace. Yeah, I remember that. That might have been the early kickoff, if I'm not mistaken. And we got the news that Trent wasn't playing at all. He might, not too sure. I don't think he was in the squad. But there, you know, Salah got the returns there. Jota blanked. I think he missed like an open goal, now that I'm remembering it. I don't know how I'm remembering these details, but Jota, I think, missed an open goal. He missed some good chances against Crystal Palace. But overall, Ivan Toney, Salah, and a few others, even Ben White there. That was against Burnley, I believe, with 7 points. You know, all of them came clutch. Ben Rama as well, although I was very fortuitous with that deflected goal. So let's see, what else do we have? Speaking of Mane departure, yep, Diaz at 9 or cheaper tempts me. I think, look, this is all kind of my initial predictions. I think Diaz will be 9 million. I think 10 million would be too much. 9.5 million, I could see that happening. Even 8.5, he's definitely not going to be 8 though. That's for sure. So my prediction is 9 million. When did you think Fulham can finally face Norwich in the same league? That's a great question. Wow. Not too sure, because I could see Norwich being promoted again next season and Fulham could be relegated. So if Fulham stay up, there's a good chance that they'll both be in the Premier League in 2 seasons' time, should we say. Will you buy Mitrovic for next season? Now, you can't ignore someone who has set all-time records in the Championship. However, apart from his very first season in the Premier League, he has been exceptionally disappointing. I remember when he played for Anderlecht, he scored like a brace against Arsenal in like a comeback. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 3-0 to Arsenal, then 3-3. But in terms of the Premier League, I'd still be very sceptical about Mitrovic, but he's definitely someone to consider, especially with the season he's just had. He's going to be in the prime of his career. He might have matured a lot. I think he will do better than the last time he was in. I think Fulham will also do better, but I'd still be very wary about that. I see you, Dylan. Great rank. Thank you, Arba. Much appreciated. Where did you finish? Hopefully you finished even better than I did. 16k, my first ever FPL. Can I maintain or improve? There's always room for improvement. I think you definitely can. And by the way, 16k in your first season, that is amazing, to be honest. I mean, what I just finished in is my best ever rank, and this is my 3rd season, really. So fair play to you, mate. This season's going to be interesting since we have to manage budget very carefully. I think so. The prices will be integral. So if Haaland, for example, is 12 million or above, it's going to be very hard to fit him, Trent, who I believe will be 8.5 and above, Cancelo, Heung-min Son, all these options. It's going to be very difficult to fit them in. So I actually want it to be difficult. I don't want it to be so easy that we just fit these 4 or 5 premiums in. The template's so strong, and then there's not really too much room for going different, really. Mitrovic is a meme in the Premier League. Yeah, in a way. I think he will do better, but I'm still very sceptical about him. That's a good prediction, by the way, on Haaland's price. 11.5, I could see that. I definitely don't expect him to be 11 or below. If he is going to be in 60% of teams or more. I'm pretty sure about that. Mitrovic versus Toney. The way I see it, I think Mitrovic will be 6.5 to 7 million because he's a newly promoted striker, and Fulham, in terms of the odds, maybe aren't going to be that high in terms of staying up. Whereas Toney has that Premier League experience now. I think Toney will be 7.5 million potentially. I'm not too sure. Right now, I'd be tempted to say Toney, but I'm still open-minded about Mitrovic. Will you fall into an Mbeumo trap again? If I'm not mistaken, obviously we're going to go through the rest of my game weeks. I don't think I fell into that trap. I don't think I actually went for Mbeumo at all, but I did fall into the Toney trap per se. Something similar could happen with Mitrovic, but in terms of Mbeumo, I don't think I'd go for him. If Eriksen stays at Brentford, which I'm not too sure if that's going to be the case, then he would be the Brentford midfielder I'd look at. And also Wissa, who has been really, really good, especially in the second half of the season. Haaland faces a tough test versus Liverpool in the Community Shield on July 31st. If he does well, he's in my team. That's a really good point. And especially with the way Liverpool have played in finals, where they've only conceded 1 goal in 3 games, that's definitely going to be a tough test. Early predictions, I think City win that game. But look, Liverpool are still a tremendous team and anything can happen. And they do have the better of City in the last 3 games that they've played. I finished 98k coming from 1.5 million last season. That's exceptional, Alba. That's a really good rank rise, and you could easily get into the top 50k next season. But it gets harder and harder every single campaign. The top 10k, I think the top 50k is the kind of new top 10k. That's the way I kind of see it. But obviously, look, top 10k is a tremendous achievement in itself. Which premiums are a must next season out of Trent, Robbo, Cancelo, James, Salah, KDB, Bruno, Son, Kane and Haaland? Very early to tell. I think a lot depends once again on the prices and also the positions. If Salah and Son are forwards, then I'd actually be more inclined to go for Kane and Haaland maybe. The way I see it is Haaland will get some 90-minute games, but he's also going to be subbed off quite early. I could see that happening from time to time. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind. I think Kane's going to play 90 minutes pretty much every single game. Son will get 70 to 80-minute appearances, which is still very good. But if he's a forward, I would go for Kane over Son. If Son remains a midfielder, then I think Son would be my preference. Bruno Fernandes right now is a no-go for me, especially with Ronaldo potentially staying next season as well. KDB, I'm interested in. But I think really the main ones that stand out is one of Son or Kane, Haaland, And then from the defenders, Trent and Cancelo. Those are the ones that I really look at, Bridgerton, but the rest are still exceptional. Robertson, from Gameweek 13 until the end of the season, was better than Trent Alexander-Arnold, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And if Trent is 8.5 million, I could see Robertson being slightly cheaper at 7.5 or 8 million, and I think Robertson could actually be a more popular option as a result. So yeah, let me go through my next game. Obviously, I love going through all your questions and comments, and I'm going to go through them. But let's try to get a move on with this. So as we talked about with Game Week 5, I got another green arrow here. Now, Game Week 6, 50 points. I think this is my first red arrow of this season. So let me just double check that. Yes, it was, but only a marginal one actually. So Game Week 6 was one of the lower scoring game weeks, especially in the first half of the season. So I went from 55,050 to 56,130. So one of the smallest red arrows you're ever going to see. So 50 points and only a marginal red arrow. You have to be happy with that, to be honest. So Foster in goal once again. I gained a point. Like I said before, I was gaining these points from these marginal goalkeeper decisions. And by the way, in Game Week 6, I made 2 transfers. So I did Tony and Brownhill to Richardson and... wait, have I got this right? Yeah, and Sarr. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it right. Don't worry, I got it right. And as you can see, Cody with a clean sheet, Trent with only 1 point, and Luke Shaw with 0. So Trent got 1 point, and that was against Brentford in that 3-3 thriller. Liverpool were involved in some of the best games of the season. You know, I'd say against Spurs, that was a really good game. The 2-2, also the City games, especially the one at Anfield. I think that's my favourite game of the season. The Brentford one was exceptional. And by the way, those were back-to-back for Liverpool. They faced Brentford and then City. 2 amazing games for me. And then the midfield, Benrahma blanked. Antonio did get a goal there with 8 points. I think this was against Spurs, no? No, it wasn't. It was against Leeds, my bad. Spurs, I'm getting carried away a little bit. Yeah, that was in Game Week 9. Salah with 7 points, Jota with 7 as well. Greenwood blanking yet again. Sarr, my new signing there, with 9 points. Ronaldo captaincy flop there with 4. Who did United play here? Oh, it was Leicester. Was it? Or was it Everton? No, it was Everton. Yeah, so I captained Ronaldo, I remember that. So when the deadline passed, there was murmurings of Ronaldo being benched, and it ended up being the case. Even maybe during the deadline stream, a few people were kind of warning me about Ronaldo potentially being benched, and there you go. Actually, am I getting this wrong? No, I'm getting it wrong. When in Game Week 6, this was against Villa, by the way. They're at home, and then when I saw Bruno Fernandes step up to take the penalty, I was like, wow, really? I was confident. If Ronaldo took it, even against Emi Martinez, he would have probably scored. So yeah, that was a game changer there. So I was a bit surprised Ronaldo didn't take the penalty there. So yeah, from Game Week 6 onwards, I think Ronaldo, everyone was going to go off him basically from that point onwards. But yeah, again, you know, not the horrendous week really that it looks like with 50 points, but a marginal red arrow here. So Game Week 6 was kind of the first bad game week, I'd say, of the season, but not too bad. Definitely not a disaster. Let's see. Tony and Mbuma is the same level trap as Dennis versus King. Super funny. I went for Tony and King and expect crazy gap against the other side. Well, variance, as we're going to talk about, especially later on in this review, was absolutely crazy. I think Dennis he was still a good option at the beginning of the season, and it was a classic case of stats in King's favour compared to, not even analytics, in terms of Grass FC. I don't really like that term, but that's what Dennis kind of was. I went for Dennis myself. He got me 1 return. After that, it was kind of a disaster. Up to 3 transfers should be allowed. Yep, to carry forward instead of 2. That will reduce -4 hits. I think that's actually more interesting. I like that idea as well. I wouldn't do 4 or 5, but I would do 3, yes. And also it gives you the ability to make, for example, 4 transfers for a -4 hit. I really like that idea. Rafa Nadal wins a marathon 5-setter at Roland Garros. Yeah, and he was at the game yesterday, the Champions League final. I'll be honest, I'm a Federer guy, but obviously you have to appreciate Djokovic and Nadal. And Nadal is definitely the best clay player ever, the best on clay. I remember a game week I forgot to sub in Foster to Sanchez, and Foster had a 10-point haul while Sanchez got a red card, which makes it sound like a masterclass decision. Wow, I mean... I'm not too sure what was the context of that way saying who were both teams playing, but yeah, I mean that's a huge swing from a goalkeeper as well. We're going to talk about a goalkeeper swing very shortly actually, and this happened quite a lot with Ramsdale, as we'll talk about very shortly. But Game Week 6, pretty poor one. Game Week 7 was even worse with a 40-point haul there. That was awful. So as you can see, I was kind of struggling around this period after an incredible start. kind of tailed off, and this was a pretty big red arrow to 81k from 56. So let's go through this quickly. Sanchez with a clean sheet there, 6 points. Ben White again with a clean sheet. So Arsenal were on a bit of a roll here. Very lucky, by the way, to keep a clean sheet in this game against Brighton. I'm very surprised that they did. 1 bonus point there for Ben White. Luke Shaw with a blank, Cody as well, and Antonio Rudiger, my new signing. So I did Trent to Rudiger. I believe Trent was injured, and that's why I did this move. And also, I was liking the look of Chelsea. Rudiger had just scored against Tottenham, a 14-point haul, and he also got 6 points against Aston Villa, as well as 2 clean sheets to start the season. But obviously this was off the back of the 1-pointer against Manchester City. Diego Jota was on my bench. That's quite surprising, actually, that I went to bench him. Ayling and Richardson there. So a pretty weak bench overall. But yeah, I mean, this team was poor. I captained Ronaldo once again. Okay, yeah, maybe that. Looking back on it, I think I probably should have gone for a different captaincy. Obviously, it's very easy to say this right now. But off the back of United looking so poor against Aston Villa and Ronaldo only, one really big performance against Newcastle, but then just the goal against West Ham, I think really Salah was the one to go for. And I think from this point onwards, I realised Salah was the permanent captain for the first half of the season. Antonio blanking yet again, same with Benrahma. They were tailing off slightly, the West Ham players, but there was still a few more returns in them yet, especially in a few game weeks' time that we're going to get to very soon. But yeah, Sarr as well with a 1-pointer, Greenwood with a 1-pointer. This was a disaster class, 40 points, and I went down to 80k. But overall, still in and amongst the fight in the top 100k. But this was a disastrous week as well. So just the one transfer, like I said, Trent to Rudiger. Now let's go to game week 8. This is when I played the wildcard. I typically play it in the first 9 game weeks of the season. That's something I have noticed. I think the season before this one, I played it in game week 6 or 7. And the one before that, I played it in Game Week 4. So let's wait and see. I think sometimes we are too quick to pull the trigger, and I'm definitely one of them. And as you can see here, not the greatest score when playing the wildcard. So 58 points. You typically want a really big score just after playing the wildcard, but not so much here. So let me know what you think of this team as well. So I decided to wildcard, bring in Ramsdale, who was looking like the best budget keeper in the business. Foster still remained. I brought in Rafinha. Tony remained as well, and Antonio. I brought in Lukaku, which obviously in hindsight also looks like a pretty poor decision. He obviously had a great start from game weeks 2 to 4, but after that he just kept on blanking. So I still like the signs of him, but ultimately that was a poor decision. Looking back on it, Antonio, I kept him despite him constantly blanking since game week 3. Only 1 return in that time period from game week 4s to, I'd say, 7. I think he got an 8-pointer. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, was a good choice. Going for double City defence as well. But as you will see very shortly, I was very quick to pull the trigger on one of the City defenders. Livramento was also really shining around this period, and he got a clean sheet there for me straight away. A 6-pointer here in game week 8. So yeah, clean sheet against Leeds. So very good stuff. And actually, if we look here, this period between game week 7 to 11, he got a return in every single game. So Livramento was at one point a really good FPL asset, and we're all comparing him to Lundstrom, especially in terms of the kit, as you can see there. But still, not the greatest choice. At least I got Azpilicueta. Townsend, I brought in Townsend. What was I thinking? And he got back-to-back double-digit returns here against Norwich and United. He also got a double-digit return against Burnley, and he got an assist against Southampton. But look at this, by the way. He didn't get a return for the rest of the season. Wow, that is incredible. After the first 7 game weeks, he was actually one of the highest scoring players in the game. Wow. And I got him in straight after that. So yeah, there you go. That's why chasing last week's points isn't the best decision, really, obviously. Saka there, he only played 45 minutes. I remember this now. Oh my God. So I'm trying to remember who the referee was. I think it was Mike Dean. So MacArthur absolutely swipes Bukayo Saka. He only gets a yellow card. That was a blatant red card. Saka comes off injured at half-time. And Saka also got a yellow card just before departing the pitch. So that was a disastrous introduction for Bukayo Saka into my team. But yeah, as you can see, some things are definitely coming to mind now. But after playing the wild card, I went slightly up to 79k, but it was still a pretty underwhelming week considering the fact that I just played my wildcard. So let's go back to your questions, by the way. Yeah, you're calling everyone a meme in FPL. Yes, Lukaku has been pretty dismal, but there was a time at West Brom and Everton where he was a good asset, wasn't he? Let's see, what else do we have? I checked it. It's game week 11. That's super duper funny. And decided to keep Sanchez and Foster for 90% of the season. I kept Sanchez because I love to see when he outscores Ramsdale during that time. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, Foster got a few surprising double-digit returns this season, but he's definitely been the best 4 million goalkeeper in recent years. And now he's leaving Watford, and obviously they're relegated anyway. But yeah, that's a really interesting goalkeeper swing that you mentioned there. So just going to take a quick water break. Just trying to stay in the game, as we say. And then we're going to go through my Game Week 9 team where I made a premium transfer actually. So in Game Week 9, I got 86 points. This is more like it, but still not the greatest in terms of the rank. So I'm going to show you what happened in Game Week 9 very soon, 1 week after playing my wildcard. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, we are back. That was very quick. So in Game Week 9, as you can see, I did a Lukaku to Vardy transfer. You could call it a rage transfer potentially, but Vardy got 1 point. Not too sure what Lukaku got in that game that I got rid of him. So he played Norwich, didn't he, in the 7-0 victory. I don't think Lukaku... Did he get something? I need to double check that. So let's actually go back to Game Week 8 and check what Lukaku did against Norwich. If he did get something, I mean, that's my mistake for getting rid of him anyway. No, he didn't even play against Norwich. I think that's when he got injured. So, yeah, around this time he got injured in the Champions League. I remember that. A lot of people were very interested in him as a UCL fantasy asset. He had, like, Malmo. I think that was the game he got injured. So, yeah, that does make sense why I got rid of him. I think Vardy's actually a decent transfer. And Vardy, I think in 20 starts, scored 15 goals this season. He's still got it. He's a really good goal scorer. One of the all-time Premier League greats, really. His story is remarkable. But going back to Game Week 9, 86 points. Let me actually check the rank. So in Game Week 9, I actually went down to 99k despite scoring 86 points. So it was a bit of a high-scoring week, actually. So, as you can see, Salah pretty much carried me. 48 points. His hat-trick against United. One of the best performances of the season. Trent also getting 10 points, Livramento with 9, but everyone else pretty much blanking. Antonio got the 7 points against Spurs. He did that famous Neo celebration. That was amazing. I was actually celebrating in the sports bar like that. Ivan Toney blanking, Vardy blanking, Rafinha, Townsend, you know the drill. Diaz, Cancelo and Ramsdale all blanking. Even everyone on my bench blanking. So a very dismal week actually, carried by Salah captaincy, Antonio, Trent and Livramento. But yeah, still a significant red arrow there, 20,000 places, and I just about kept my place in the top 100k there. But now we're going to move on to Game Week 10 onwards. So pretty much in Game Week 9, Lukaku to Vardy, it made sense, but ultimately didn't really gain anything from that. Just 1 point from that transfer, which is quite funny, considering Lukaku was injured. Now, Game Week 10, 40 points. So at this point, I was probably regretting playing the wildcard, and look what I'm talking about. Ramsdale with a 10-pointer. I think this was against Leicester. Yes, it was. I thought Leicester would score, and to be honest, they really should have. But Ramsdale was incredible that day. Foster, I started Foster there. I lost 8 points from that decision. Townsend, Livramento on my bench, so I lost out a bit on Livramento. Diaz, Trent, all blanking, Cancelo as well. Chilwell, though, my new signing. So I actually did Azpilicueta and Saka to Chilwell and Foden from -4 hit. And Saka got the assist, actually, for the first goal, I believe it was. Maybe Gabriel scored, if I'm not mistaken. Foden, Salah captain, only with an assist there. Rafinha with a 9-pointer. Obviously, there's that famous kind of saying that Rafinha never gets those double-digit returns. He finally did at one point, but it took him a long time to reach that. Ivan Toney, Antonio and Vardy all blanking. A kind of familiar sight for all of us with our forwards. So, as you can see, from Game Week 8 to 10... the wildcard actually didn't really help me too much. I mean, it made sense. I kind of sorted out my defence. I got, those top defenders from the top teams, but didn't really improve the rest of my team that much. And the one time Ramsdale did get a return, he was on my bench there, as you can see. Afternoon, Kirby. Good to see you here. Welcome, Junior, as well. I bought James as the cheapest price during Game Week 9 wildcard, and he hauled with Chilwell. I suddenly became an FPL god. Yeah, no, I remember rage transferring Reece James and Chilwell pretty much after what they were doing. Remember when Livramento... Yeah, Livramento was great at one point. He really was, yes. Yeah, from Game Week... I think I just said it now. From Game Week 8 to 11, or 7 to 11, he basically returned in every single game. For a 4 million defender from Southampton, that's very, very impressive. And by the way, biggest troll for me this season... I have to think about this, but I think it's Foden. In UCL Fantasy, whenever I got him in, he always blanked. I think he might have got one return for me. Whenever I got rid of him, he would score. Same with FPL. He was an absolute troll for me. I think I just got him off the back of that game against Brighton where he got like 18 points. So game week 9, 18 points. Against Crystal Palace, he got a goal disallowed. I remember that. Or maybe he got an assist that was disallowed for Gabriel Jesus. So Foden for me is an absolute troll. Honestly, that guy is probably the biggest FPL troll for me. But yeah, we'll go now to Game Week 11, 69 points, a little bit better. But I don't think I got a really good rank rise, actually. So Game Week 11, I did get... Wow. Oh, by the way, in Game Week 10, when I got 40 points, I went from 99k to 190. So that was one of the biggest kind of rank drops I had all season. It was an awful week, Game Week 10. Game Week 11, I managed to claw back a bit of the deficit to 113k. So not too bad there. And yeah, my kind of team value was looking pretty decent. Cancelo with a 14-pointer. And who was that against, actually? It was against Man United, yeah. Okay, now I remember that. Foden very close to scoring in that game as well. Ben Chilwell blanking, but Reece James got, I think, an assist in that game. 7 points against Burnley. Yeah, so just after that 21-pointer, I mean, look at those returns in the beginning. Absolutely insane from Reece James. It looks like I started jinxing the Chelsea duo there. Trent with yet another double-digit return. He was incredible in the beginning of the season. Robertson was very disappointing. Salah captaincy again. A 10-pointer. Was this against Arsenal? I think it... Wait, am I getting it right? No, Ramsdale got 7 points. That can't be right then. So who is this against? It was against Brighton. Okay, fair enough. Vardy blanking Tony and Antonio. So the forward line already disappointing. Rafinha with another 9-pointer. And then Livramento with yet another return on my bench. And look at this, Ben Foster. I think this was against Arsenal, wasn't it? Yes, it was. So I actually missed out on 4 points from going Ramsdale instead of Foster. But that's not really the type of decision you look at and say, oh, you made a big mistake. I don't think so anyway. So actually this week, I did Diaz to James. And I don't think I really gained anything from it because Diaz did get the clean sheet there against United. It did make sense on paper to make that transfer, but ultimately it was unnecessary when looking back on it. And that was, I'll be honest, a pure example of rage transferring because as soon as I saw Reece James score against Newcastle, I literally said, yeah, really good. Well done, Reece James. Do it in my team now. That's literally what I said, and I got him in as soon as he did it. Don't do that. Literally don't do that. It's just a really bad thing to do in FPL. So there you go. At least I got a green arrow from this week. And now moving on to Game Week 12, 77 points. So starting to establish a bit more consistency, just like I did at the beginning of the season. And I think I went to 90k. So a decent rank rise, not a great one, but still good nonetheless. The back five, look at that. Everyone returning except for Ramsdale and Livramento. 1 point for Ramsdale. Is this when they played Liverpool? Yeah, it was. Yeah, 1 point against Liverpool there. And he did make how many saves? Yeah, he made 5 saves as well. Jesus Christ, that was a battering. So I played a 5-2-3. Not many times I've done this throughout the whole season. Tony getting a return. Vardy, Antonio blanking. Yet again, Foden, my biggest troll in FPL and UCL Fantasy this season. Salah with 16 points. I believe he got an assist in that game. Maybe 2 assists. I'm not too sure. I don't think he scored against Arsenal. Oh no, he did score. Oh, he did score. Yeah, no, he did score against Arsenal. Yeah, I think I kind of took that game out of my mind. Rafinha, Townsend, Douglas Luiz, all pretty poor actually. Ben Foster with 5 points. So at that point, Foster was actually on a flyer. But game week 12 are we on? I'm losing count already. This is pretty poor from me. But yeah, game week 12, I went for a back 5, and that was the reason why I got a kind of 20k rank rise. So still pretty good stuff here. And I didn't make a transfer, I actually rolled it. So in game week 13, I made 2 transfers. I got 72 points, and this is where I got a really big rank rise actually. So if we check here, I did Chilwell and Foden to Alonso and Jota, and I think I got rid of Chilwell because he got injured pretty much, and he got that injury that took him out for the rest of the season. I got his replacement Alonso. He blanked. Reece James blanked as well. Ramsdale got a 7-pointer, so they bounced back from that Liverpool defeat. Trent with a 9-pointer. Jota with 14. Salah with 12. I think this was against Leicester, wasn't it? No, it was against Southampton. Yeah, Jota was the one that was the highest scorer for me. And Vardy, I think this was against Leicester, against Watford. He got a 12-pointer. So that was his first return for me. Yes, it was. Game week 13. So pretty good stuff there from Jamie Vardy. Antonio blanking, but Tony with a 9-pointer. So yeah, a few returns there for Tony. Pretty happy with that. Salah was my captain. A bit underwhelming, but ultimately he did get a return, and he was so consistent for the first half of the season. So apologies for this, by the way. I'm telling you, the allergy is really, really annoying. But yeah, in Gameweek 13, I went from 90k to 43k, so a very, very good rank there. So I basically halved my rank there, which is exactly what you want to see. So we're going to move now to Gameweek 14, but before we do that, I'm going to answer a few of your questions. So 60 points here, as you can see, in Gameweek 14, and I made one transfer, which I'll tell you about very soon. But yeah, let's go through your questions as well. Chilwell, Cancelo, Mahrez, Havertz all blank from Gameweek 9 to 12 when I captained them. Yeah, they're both, like all those players, especially, I'd say Chilwell and Cancelo, very good FPL options. Mahrez and Havertz, though, are very frustrating generally, I think. I think Grealish could find his feet next season. Underwhelming first season. Could see him priced at around 7 million. Yeah, I think he's definitely one to consider. And if players like Jesus and Sterling leave, it does open the door for him, especially with Sterling leaving, if that's, if that were to happen. I think Grealish will do better. I think he'll get 5+ goals and 5+ assists, but I don't know if he's still going to be one of the better options. Yeah, Foden's one of my biggest trolls in both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Not starting, coming off at half-time, exactly the same. And then when you get rid of him, he scores. It's just typical, isn't it? It's what I say in Gameweek 11, Foster Hall, even outscoring Ramsdale. It was kind of, no one expected that. And I think he saved an Aubameyang penalty. No Jota on your team? Well, I had him, for, I'm not sure, wait, when did I get him in again? I got him from Gameweek 4, so he was a really big part of my team, and I always advocated for that triple up. Trent, Salah, and Jota, actually. Robertson was very underwhelming in the first half of the season. Lamptey 8-point haul in Gameweek 13. I mean, there's so many things that happened, throughout the whole season. It's very difficult to kind of keep a track of it, but that's what we're kind of doing now. Mane leaves Liverpool, Diaz nailed, FPL price, Diaz 11 million. 11 million would be way too much. I think if Diaz is 9.5 million... I think he's going to be in most of our teams, and I think he'd be a great option. Welcome, Jack Maloney. Good to see you here once again, or Maloney, should I say. So the one transfer I did here was Townsend to Gallagher. I finally got rid of Townsend. He was an awful purchase on the wildcard. Everyone in my backline blanked here, as you can see. Salah captaincy did wonders for me there. Jota as well getting another return. Rafinha actually was very consistent when I got him in. So from game week 10... not even 10, so from game week 5 to 11, very, very consistent for the most part. So very, very good stuff from him, and he obviously had his all-time best in terms of goals. Gallagher was my new signing there. He got a 1-pointer. Tony, Antonio and Vardy, all blanking. Just a recurring theme. That's what we're basically saying. Reece James missed out completely, I think, with a 0-pointer. And then Livramento there once again. I was never going to start Douglas Luiz, but I think I made the right decision there, getting rid of Townsend. And what I was really looking at this point was getting rid of my weakness, and that was Townsend. He was the biggest weakness in my team, and in terms of a potential starter, which Townsend typically was for me. So I got Gallagher in, and it actually paid off for a little bit. But Gallagher, as we see in the second half of the season, was very, very disappointing. But obviously nailed the captaincy once again. That was a really big part of it. And at this point, Salah was pretty much my kind of permanent captain. So in Game Week 14, Salah played against Everton. Oh yes, I remember that away performance. That was really good. Yeah, I remember that now. And I think that was Rafa Benitez's last game, if I'm not mistaken. If not, one of his last games for Everton. So there you go. Now moving on to Game Week 15. 39 points. And once again, a back five. A 5-4-1 this time. I lost faith with the attackers. And I think Antonio had a tough fixture here. He got 5 points. And it was against Chelsea. I still don't really regret that, benching him. I think I did make the right choice in that regard. But then looking at it, you could argue, well, you could have benched Livramento or Gallagher, but it probably would have been for Tony anyway. Ramsdale blanking yet again, Cancelo as well. Cancelo was very poor for me, actually. He was a bit of a troll in the first half of the season. James and Alonso blanking again, but Trent was the kind of ever-present hauler in the back line for me. Livramento at this point, his magic had kind of dissipated. Salah there with another return. Jota with 3 points. Rafinha with 5. But look at that, only 3 players really getting returns from me. That is absolutely awful. So no surprises here in terms of what happened in terms of my rank. So I actually rolled a transfer, but I went from 58k to 88.4k. So that was a significant rank drop once again. So not the best there. But now we're going to move on to Game Week 16. But as you can see, I did roll the transfer. And that's one thing I've noticed from this season. I've actually been a lot more patient, and I haven't been kind of too gung-ho with these transfers for the most part, except for maybe Reece James when I brought him and Chilwell in for the likes of Diaz. 80 points here, so a decent kind of bounce back there in Game Week 16. Ramsdale with an 11-pointer there. I think Vardy missed out from injury or something like that because he was my vice-captain, as you can see there. So that's why Gallagher got me a 15-point haul. I'm trying to remember who it was against. I think it was against Wolves. No, it was against Everton. Everton, my bad. So he got 2 goals there. He got 3 bonus points. A great performance by him. Alonso with 4 points there. Trent with 9. Cancelo with 7. Finally, my backline doing the business. I actually bought in Bernardo here. So I rolled a transfer and I used 2 free transfers here in Gameweek 16. I got rid of Rafinha and Tony for Bernardo and Dennis. And I think the reason why I got rid of those 2 players was because of injury, especially in the case of Rafinha, although I might be wrong about Ivan Tony. Dennis there in his first game for me, I think it was against Brentford. Do I get this actually right this time? Yes, it was. It was against Brentford. They did lose the game, but he still got 3 bonus points and he scored that goal. I think they took the lead actually through that. Antonio blanking once again. Salah captaincy doing wonders yet again, so no complaints there. But much better to week overall, and I think I went up to 54k once again from 88k, so really, really good stuff. Gameweek 17 was a bit of an odd one actually. When we go to it now, it was a minimal kind of grey arrow is what I'd like to call it. I got 61 points, but let's go through a few more of your questions and comments if there are any again before going through the rest of my game weeks. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I bought Townsend too late, but to be fair, I just don't think I should have bought him at all. It was a kind of purple patch. Everton were looking good in the first few game weeks though, especially I'd say the first 3. I don't think, really, I disagree. I think I shouldn't have got him in at all. I think I definitely chased last week's points in that way. I scored 38 this week. I'm guessing you're talking about game week. So we're on game week 17 now, aren't we? I'm guessing you're talking about game week 15 or 14. But yeah, I think so. Then the next season, will most of the YouTube content creators or experts reveal their team before next season, Game Week 1? Well, I'm pretty sure everyone kind of reveals their teams anyway, and I'm always doing deadline streams, and you see what I do. You know, I show you what I'm doing, my transfers and stuff. I'm always transparent. If I'm kind of waiting, you know, and leaving things last minute, it's because I'm still thinking, you know, what should I do, and maybe overthinking a few things, and also trying to see if there's any additional information. But yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone, you know, who does deadline streams and also a lot of YouTube content creators will be revealing their team. And in terms of experts, I don't really like that term too much, but there are obviously some very good FPL players who are very consistent. I'm pretty sure some of them also reveal their teams as well. What I would recommend though is to make your own decisions. Obviously, it's good to see what other people are doing as well, but try not to be influenced by that and do what you think is best. You improve that way more so than copying others. Gallagher wins me the first week of the Cup in Game Week 16. I won with 1 point gap off the Gallagher last minute scorer. I changed my profile picture to Gallagher. Yeah, Gallagher was a bit of a hero that time, but things quickly changed for him, and you know, at least I got something out of him, but ultimately it didn't look too good. By the way, look at this. I think this was the beginning of the blanks, you know, the postponements. So let's see here. So we're on Game Week 17, aren't we? Yeah, so I'm not too sure exactly which game was suspended here, by the way. But as you can see, Ramsdale got me 5 points. James, Alonso, Trent, all with returns. Livramento actually missed out completely, but I didn't have enough players to actually cover for that because Dennis, Vardy, and I think Cancelo just missed out completely. But City did play that week. But Vardy and Dennis didn't have a game that week. So this is where things became very, very hectic, you know, with COVID and all this stuff. Salah, again, with a captaincy return, absolutely. You know, he was incredible in the first half of the season. People do forget that. I still think he was the player of the season alongside Heung-min Son. Jota with another return. Douglas Luiz had to come in. Antonio, Bernardo, Gallagher, all blanking. But because everyone really they were kind of in a similar predicament, you know, I didn't really get a big rank drop. So I went from 54.5k to 54.6k. So basically I went down 100 places in Game Week 17. But now, let's go to Game Week 18. And I mean, wow, a lot of things are now coming back to me. This was the period where, you see, I'm already seeing it right now. All these postponements, Antonio, Foster, Livramento, Douglas Luiz, Dennis, all missing out, you know, not having a game. I'm not sure exactly which games, by the way, because there's so many to kind of keep a hold of. But in Game Week 18, I did Vardy and Gallagher to Lacazette and Foden. And in typical Foden fashion, he didn't even play a single minute. But Lacazette was actually a really good purchase for me. I had him for 2 game weeks and he did very well. He got an assist here, I think it was against Leeds. Arsenal scored like 4 or 5 goals. Cancelo got me an 18-point haul. I need to remind me who he played against here. Against Newcastle. By the way, Cancelo against Newcastle is a cheat code. He pretty much always does something. So that's something to bear in mind. James and Alonso have returns for me as well. Trent, as always. Salah captaincy did fail for me though. And Jota was the one who got the points there. But overall, these kind of postponements, I think this is where a lot of the luck element of the game really kicks into play. And I think, if you have a lot of these kind of players in teams that have postponed matches, you're very unlucky in my opinion. And yes, some people do manage it with skill, but I think this is where variance really kicks in. And ultimately, it's just not much you can do. It's just factors outside of your control. But this is pretty much the period from Gameweek 17 to not exactly sure when, but basically around December, January, these postponements were absolute rife. I remember there was also one just before due to weather. I think it was Spurs against Burnley. Not much you guys can do about that, is it? So there you go, 60 points. And in terms of my rank, I went to 47k, so I actually got a green arrow from that. So through those transfers, Lacazette was a good transfer there. And in Gameweek 19, despite the fact that Lacazette got me 11 points, by the way, I still got another red arrow here. So I went to 72k in Gameweek 19. And actually, if we look from Gameweek 14 all the way to Gameweek 24, this was the worst part of the season for me because most of the arrows I got were indeed red. So there you go. So 72.6k as a result of Gameweek 19. Lacazette got me 11 points. And actually, I might have been mistaken. This is where... no, they played Norwich. So I think he did get a penalty here. He got a goal and an assist. But I even said then, when I got Lacazette, I don't like him as an FPL option. And lo and behold, ever since that Norwich game, how many returns did this guy get? Not that many. So let me actually go through this. So after that 11-point return, he got 5 points against Wolves and Brentford. He got 8 against Watford, 6 against Leicester, and then he blanked every single game for the rest of the season, really. So there you go. Douglas Luiz had to come in once again. The likes of Salah and Trent didn't have a game. Jota as well. I think this was because of the Club World Cup, actually, not because of postponements. But Dennis and Foster didn't have a game because of that. James Alonso there, once again, a bit underwhelming. Livramento with another blank. Ramsdale and Cancelo, who was my captain. Bit underwhelming there from Cancelo. I think he got an assist there, which kind of saved me. Foden, as you can see, he's just the biggest troll for me fantasy-wise this season. Antonio with an assist, but no surprises here why I got a red arrow. Is pretty dismal overall, apart from Lacazette and Ramsdale. So there we go. Let's see. I lost in the first round of the cup. I think I did in one of them. I'm not too sure. I don't really pay too much attention to these kind of cups, to be honest. I finished top 2k this season after watching your streams. It's great to hear other FPL managers' thought process. Thank you, Nicholas. Obviously, I'm quite inexperienced in terms of FPL. This is my third season, really, that I've completed. And I'm still very happy with where I finished. But obviously, there's always room for improvement. But I do agree. It's good to hear other people and their thought process. It does help you. I think I'd rather hear the thought process of someone else than just them telling you what to do. And that's why I always encourage people to make their own decisions. Any particular rule change you're looking forward to next season? I'm not too sure about every chip twice, but I would want the bench boost removed, and I'd want 2 free hits to be a permanent feature of the game, with one for the first half of the season, the first 19 game weeks, and then one for the second half. Yeah, Gameweek 18 was awful. I completely agree with you, Jack and Wei, saying this is where the luck element, in my opinion, really kicks in. And obviously, I'd love to point out the mistakes that I make and that everyone else makes, and the reasons or the ways we can improve. But in Gameweek 18, for example, that's kind of an unprecedented, event, really. How many premium players can you afford, especially 11 million plus? Really difficult to say because we don't know the prices just yet, and is someone going to be a forward or a midfielder? But I still think we can afford 3 or 4 premiums, defensively and in the offensive positions. But let's wait and see. So let's go back to my team. So I think this is still Gameweek 19, isn't it? Yes, it is. So let's go now to Gameweek 20. We're now going into the second half of the season. I made 2 free transfers, and yet again, another dismal week for me. Wow. So I actually remember this. So I got rid of Luis and Bernardo Silva for Gray and Bowen from -4. Wait, am I dumb? Yeah, I am dumb. By the way. No, Gameweek 20, I did Foster and Lacazette to De Gea and DCL. And Everton were actually supposed to have a double game week coming up soon. And in the end, I think this was a game against Newcastle. Everton versus Newcastle was suspended as a result. And I was in the mud from that transfer. Foden actually got me a return. What? I don't remember this. Wow. Fair play, Foden. Well done. Against Brentford, yes. He scored the only goal. And he got the 3 bonus points there. But that's the only time he really returned for me all season. All the backline blanked, except for Cancelo. Salah, my captain, didn't even play at all. Cancelo was my vice, so his points were doubled pretty much, I think it is. Or no, Salah No, Salah actually missed the penalty against Leicester. Now I remember. He was my captain. There you go. Dennis got me a return. Same with Antonio. Nice to see some forwards getting some returns there. But defence very underwhelming for the most part. Foden did well, but that wasn't really enough for me. So in Game Week 20, I got another red arrow to 78k. So there we go. In terms of what I could have done better, I think just not go for Everton players, because I did even say at that point, Everton don't look that good right now, but I chased the double game weeks coming up soon, and it kind of fell flat. So that's one thing I think we can definitely take into next season. Do not go overboard with double game weeks and try to just go for the best players and best teams. DCL, yes, he was a good option in the past, but as you saw this season, until the very end of the campaign, he was very, very disappointing, as you can see there. But yeah, another kind of average, pretty poor week there. 41 points. 81 though, so I almost doubled it in the following game week in 21. Foden missed out completely, didn't play. Antonio with 9 points. Bowen with 42. So this is when West Ham had the double game week. And a lot of people went for Antonio actually, because he scored 4 goals against Norwich in the past. But actually it was Bowen who... I think in the first game, Antonio did better than Bowen, and everyone was saying, we won the Antonio versus Bowen debate. But in the second game, Bowen went crazy, and yeah, I was very happy to get him in. So I took a -4 in Game Week 21. Luiz plus Bernardo Silva to Gray and Bowen. Gray, I think, had a double game week, if I'm not mistaken, or he's about to have one. So in Game Week 21, no, he only had the Brighton game. So I think he started having the doubles fairly soon afterwards. But yeah, once again, going for these kind of Everton players, didn't work out for me. Calvert-Lewin and Gray were a disaster, but Jota and Salah returns, Trent as well, Alonso, De Gea, who was one of my transfers in 20, very good for saves, but not so much for clean sheets. So I think that's another thing. I showed too much faith in United defensively, and really there were too many signs throughout the course of the season that, yes, you can maybe go for one of their attackers like Bruno or Ronaldo potentially for a double game week, but their defensive assets were pretty mind-bogglingly bad. So De Gea, not a bad purchase or not the worst, but I still think I could have done better there and saved the transfer as a result. But it's mainly just me chasing double game weeks, and yeah, sometimes you just don't need to do it basically. So let's go through this as well. I wanted to go for Son captain instead of Salah in 20, but too scared for effective ownership. Yeah, that's true. I didn't really factor in Son. If I brought him in, he probably would have been my captain in 20, but yeah, just... Son was someone actually that I had a lot last season, so the season before this one, and him and Kane did wonders for me. And the second half of this season, Son was a really big part of my team, but as you can see, it took me quite a while to get the South Korean into my team. I had Dawson in Game Week 21, nice 7-pointer. Yes, West Ham assets were really good, that triple up. I think they lost a clean sheet in the first game of 21, but Dawson got that goal in the end, yeah. Hey Dylan, I didn't buy Kane all season because I didn't trust him with points, but bought him in 38. Same here, mate. It's not because I didn't trust him, it's because I needed to get rid of Son for Harry Kane. At one point, I thought Harry Kane was the better option around Game Week 29. Everyone was saying Son was off form and he's just useless as an FPL option, and that under Conte has to be Kane. Things change very quickly, obviously. But yeah, I also got Kane in ahead of that Norwich fixture. Bit of a no-brainer. And there you go. Obviously, fair play. And you captained him. Very good. I did consider it, especially chasing rank, but in the end, I did go for Son. And if it wasn't for those 2 late goals against Norwich, I mean, I would have been regretting it a little bit, maybe. But yeah, Son and Kane are always very consistent. I do think, however, next season, I would back Kane over Son if Son is classed as an attacker, or a forward, should I say. So Game Week 22, I took a big hit. So this is the first big hit I took of the season. And this is where I took probably the worst hits, or just the worst transfers I made all season. So in Game Week 21, I went up to 69k, by the way. But I went down to 98k as a result of Game Week 22. This was a double game week, I believe it was. Or I was getting ready for the double game week. Let me actually double check this. No, I think it was a double game week. Jesus Christ. So in Game Week 22, I took a -8. I got rid of Reece James, Salah and Antonio for Cucurella, Trossard and Ronaldo. Literally, if I just did Salah to Ronaldo and took a -4, I would have been fine. And I would have captained Bruno and I would have gotten a 20 plus point swing. Well, there you go. Ronaldo didn't play the first game. He was flagged already, so I did make a mistake there. But I did trust Ranić when he said that he expected him to be fine for the first game. And then Ronaldo featured in the second one. But Bruno got some lucky returns against Villa, but he still got those returns nonetheless. Martinez, I think, spilled one of the goals there. And then, yeah, that was a complete disaster. Trossard, by the way, who ended the season very strongly. Let's actually check his returns at the end of the season. Look at this, by the way. From Gameweek 32 to 36, he was incredible. But when I got him in, he was absolutely awful. And actually against Chelsea, he came off the bench in the second game. So not even 2 points for appearances there. Cucurella got me 5 points, so not the worst there, really. But also not the best. Trent with 10 points and Cancelo with 11. De Gea with 8, to be fair, so I got something from him. Hallelujah. 7 from Bowen, who is probably the best asset this season in FPL in terms of value, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. I think Matip's another one that's up there, but Bowen for me, he started off the season at like 6.5 million. He was fantastic, 17 assists and I think 14 goals or something. I need to double, maybe 11 goals. 12 goals and 17 assists. That is absolutely incredible return from Bowen. So many double-digit returns. I think only Son and maybe Salah have more than him, which is incredible. But yeah, Ronaldo captaincy flopped here. Ronaldo and Trossard was just the wrong move. And really, if I just did Salah to Bruno Fernandes and captain him, and this is where the variance really kicked in for me, and I missed out. And I could have been in the top 10k, but because of weeks like this, it really did cost me. And look, whilst there is a lot of luck involved in going for Ronaldo over Bruno and then losing out as a result, I do think in the end, just avoiding that extra hit and going for Bruno would have worked just as well. I'll be honest though, just kind of to offer an insight into what I was thinking at the time, because it's not like I got it, completely wrong and I was just, high or something. I think the way I looked at it was Ronaldo was much better at United since he came into the team than Bruno Fernandes was. And I backed Ronaldo to score more goals if he had started both games. He obviously didn't, and Bruno got that huge haul against Villa, and the rest is history. So obviously it's very easy to speak now and say I made the wrong decision, but I do still understand why I made that decision and use that thought process. So let me know, by the way, if you guys were on the right side of this kind of variance, but this was pretty poor. Thank you, by the way, Singh, for moderating that. Thank you. When the 50-50 in Gameweek 20, Bruno captain. Fair enough, yeah. In Gameweek 22, however, it definitely wasn't. Is this your highest ever overall rank? Yes, it is. So just to double check, actually, in the 15.4k, yes, that's my highest ever rank. Last season, I finished 55k, and then the season before that, 67k. So that's kind of my rank history. Nothing, exceptional. UCL Fantasy is more impressive, although there's fewer players there. UCL Fantasy, I think I finished 20k, 4k, and now this year I finished 800, top 800 in the world. So very happy with that. But yes, FPL, this is my highest ever rank. So yeah, Gameweek 22, I'm going to go over this because this is one of the worst game weeks I had all season. And speaking of worst game weeks, 25 points in Gameweek 23. And I think this was just an absolute disaster. Jesus Christ. And it's not like there were many postponements to really, kind of save me an excuse. I mean, Gameweek 23, I went from 98k to 124k. And by the way, this situation didn't improve until Gameweek 25. Things were looking very, very grim at this point. So let's actually go now to Gameweek 23. I got rid of Trossard as soon as I got him in for Rafinha, and he got 2 points there for me. Diego Jota with 5. Who else got me a return? Ramsdale with 8. Dennis as my captain. In a double game week, he got me -2 points by getting sent off. Ronaldo with another blank. Calvert-Lewin with a blank. Everyone in my whole squad blanked except for Diego Jota and Ramsdale. This is probably the worst game week I've ever had. It's up there. But I still didn't go down that much, actually, in terms of rank, which is maybe a bit surprising, but it just goes to show that some weeks are just destined for low scores for most people. So I went from 98k to 124k. I would have expected a bigger kind of rank drop as a result. So I don't think there's much to really comment on here. I kind of rage transferred Trossard out in a way, but I was really put off the fact that he was benched against Chelsea in the second game of Gameweek 22. And Rafinha was doing very well for me, and he was one of the better options, around 6.5 million. So I still understand why I did it. I think really my approach to season in a lot of these transfers that you see here was getting rid of that weakness that I thought was my big weakness, and kind of sorting that out first before then prioritizing other things that I wanted to do beforehand. So the biggest weakness, I think, that's a good way of approaching it, just getting rid of those and trying to rectify your kind of mistakes or the ways you can definitely improve your team. So now we're going to go on to Gameweek 24. 62 points. It does look better on paper. I took a -4 hit actually, but guess what? I got a really big red arrow here once again. I went from 124k to 162k. So yeah, very poor stuff. However, this was a game changer, actually. This was the last time or kind of the end of the period where I got a lot of red arrows. So from Gameweek 25 to the end of the season, I actually did very well. And I was very consistent throughout with only a few kind of red arrows, which almost cost me in the end. But I think this is where I really got my act together. So I'd say the beginning of the season and also from Game Week 25 onwards, that's where I really pushed on and I managed to do what I wanted. So in Game Week 25, I made a really simple transfer. I got rid of... Wait, am I on the wrong screen? No, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So in Game Week 24, I actually did Alonso and DCL to Luca Dean and Edouard from -4 hit. Now at this point, I remember heading into 24, in the transfer tips video, for example, I said Edouard is a really good purchase. He's showing some good form, and he's also probably one of the first picks on a wildcard up front. And ever since that, Edouard started losing out to Mateta. And a lot of us were cussing Patrick Vieira here. Once again, Ramsdale being on the bench and getting points there for me. He got a 9-pointer. I want to actually see why I benched him. So in Game Week 24, he played Wolves away. Okay. And actually Arsenal went down to 10 men with that bizarre red card for Martinelli. De Gea there once again, though, pretty poor. Luca Dean as another kind of troll for me, but I do forgive him a little bit because of Game Week 37. Trent and Cancelo, once again, a recurring theme throughout the whole season, really, up until this point. They were the kind of two best defenders, especially Trent. Foden blanking yet again, no surprises. I captained Bowen, actually, in Game Week 24, which is quite surprising. I didn't have Salah at this point. Diego Jota, I think they played Leicester. I'm pretty sure of this now. 16 points, it was... It was against Leicester. Yes, it was. I remember that now. And as for Jared Bowen, who did he play in Game Week 26? He played, in 25... Oh, I'm getting confused. In 24, he played Watford. Okay, yeah, I think I don't really regret the captaincy decision. Jota was in my thoughts a little bit, but I think he was probably third in the pecking order, as you can see, with Cancelo being my second choice here. Ronaldo with another 1-pointer, and at this point I had just given up pretty much on all these United assets, but they still had a double game week in 25, as we'll discuss very shortly. And I did cover the kind of main United assets, in my opinion, for that double that they had. And overall, 24 was a bit of a poor week again, going down to 160k. But this was the turning point for me. And a lot of you did ask in recent streams, what do you think was the kind of single best FPL moment for you? And actually, looking now at my kind of rank history this season, I think this is it. Last minute goal by Bruno Fernandes, who had a disaster class against Brighton. They had just blanked in the first game of Game Week 25, I believe anyway. I'm going to double check that. And then in the dying embers of the game, Bruno Fernandes scores. He takes the bonus points off Ronaldo. And I'll be honest, even in the 90th minute, I think I tweeted out, Bruno Fernandes, you fraud. That's kind of my way of reverse jinxing someone. And he ended up scoring and he got me those points. I think that's probably the biggest FPL moment for me this season. Let me know in the live chat what you think your kind of best moment of the season was. But double-digit returns from all of them. Ronaldo, De Gea and Bruno Fernandes. And Jeroboam once again coming up clutch. So you can't really ask for too much more there. Even with Cancelo missing out, still not too bad. And Cucurella got me 7 points there. He was my only Brighton player. I know a lot of people actually went really big on Brighton once again. But yeah, I'm really happy with that United trio. And that's pretty much the only time, apart from maybe Game Week 30, or should I say 27, when I did have a triple up in United. But we'll double check that because I may be mistaken there. So yeah, this is the last week, by the way, before I activated my wildcard. Another kind of game-changing decision here to play the wildcard in 26 instead of triple captaining Salah. But I will be explaining it when we get to it. But this is pretty much the team I had heading into 26, and to be honest, let's actually break it down. So yes, De Gea got a 10-point haul, but there was the likes of Jose Salva, good double game week in 26, and also he had some very good fixtures pretty much until the end of the season in a way. Then you had Luca Dean, who for me has been a kind of troll, and Villa have been poor defensively throughout the whole time. Trent I was happy to keep, Cucurella not so much, so that's already kind of 3 players that I was looking to get rid of. Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes, as well as they did in 25, I wasn't convinced about them going forward. Edouard as well, he was kind of going down in my estimation. And also, heading into Game Week 26, we got news, I think, in the morning that Edouard was going to be benched once again for Mateta. And that pretty much cemented the wildcard for me, because I did kind of overthink it throughout the whole night. And I looked at how my team would look like until the end of the season without the wildcard and also with the wildcard. And actually, I didn't gain too much. We'll talk about Gameweek 26 very soon. But ultimately, this was a very big decision to wildcard and not triple captain. Would I still have been 15k? Could I have been even higher if I had played the triple captaincy on Salah and wildcard in 28? Actually, when I think about it, maybe I could have, but I'm still very happy with my decision, and I do think it does make sense, because a lot of these players, even Dennis, for example, Livramento, Demarai Gray, all awful, and I wanted to get rid of the majority of this squad, as you can see here. So we're going to go now into Gameweek 26, 130 points with my wildcard played. I captained Salah, but I didn't triple captain him, and pretty much from Gameweek 26 and 29, I used all of my chips, bar my second free hit. But I'm going to talk about this very soon. Just going to take a quick water break. Let me show you the two top, in my opinion, players of the Premier League season. And who do you think was better, Salah or Heung-min Son? We'll be right back right now. Alright, so here we go. These are the stats of the two top scorers of the Golden Boot. I don't necessarily think they're the top two just because of the Golden Boot. I think Salah, obviously, he won the Playmaker of the season. His first half was absolutely incredible, and I do think recency bias does play a big factor. I will admit, though, since the African Cup of Nations, Salah has been very underwhelming, and we all thought that he would beat his kind of 2017-18 tally when he was absolutely crazy that season, but just wasn't meant to be. And I think the African Cup of Nations did disrupt him a little bit. Maybe affected him mentally. That's what some people do believe. I just think most importantly of all, it did disrupt his rhythm, and he just hasn't been able to really recapture that form. And also a big part of it is Salah not really being deployed in his best position. He's got a bit of a different role now, especially with DS in the team, but that could change now with Mane making way, and the Senegalese will no longer be the kind of main striker there. So let's go through the rest of the questions. Welcome, Ahmed. Thank you very much for tuning in. I captained KDB in Gameweek 36, best Gameweek for me. Wow, chips. 36 for me personally was one of the worst, but obviously those who had KDB, I think it definitely would have been up there. It's very interesting to see how a lot of us have different kind of highlights and best moments of the season as well. I don't understand why I kept captaining Dennis too. Yeah, I only captained him once, and I obviously immediately regretted it, and from that point onwards I was quite settled on getting rid of him, as we'll talk about very shortly. Laporte saved my Gameweek in 23. You gave me advice to buy him, and he scored. Obviously, I wouldn't have anticipated him scoring, but Laporte, from very early on, demonstrated himself as a capable replacement and also kind of filler for Joao Cancelo as well. Gameweek 25, Edouard came in, the biggest troll of the season. I agree. I was actually talking about him, in Gameweek 23, 24. I was saying, this guy, he could be the answer to the forward dilemma. No, he's just another added issue, by the way. Yeah, exactly what we're saying. Yeah. Gameweek 25, Bruno almost killed me. I had no CR7. Yeah, exactly. I had both of them and De Gea, and that's why that was a game-changing moment. I was quite well prepared for Gameweek 25, but I endured a lot of bad game weeks beforehand to reach that green arrow. We're actually at 8:30 already, by the way, so time has gone really quickly. Obviously, I really appreciate everyone tuning in right now. If you haven't already, you know what to do. Smash the like button and subscribe for new. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in today. And obviously, I appreciate it's kind of the end of the season. Everyone's kind of taking a break from FPL. But even those that are watching this video and stream later, which is much appreciated. And let me know in the comments below what you think of your overall season. How did you end up doing? And what are your targets for next season? That would be great to see. But now let's go back to my FPL team. And we're going to show you a few more things, actually. As well as obviously my Gameweek 38 performance, my 38 game weeks. So Wasting also says Gameweek 26 triple captain Salah 131 points. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? How different strategies, but we almost got identical points as well. So I actually got a minimal green arrow here after playing the wild card, and it tends to be the case. One thing I've noticed on my wild cards is I generally do well long term, but it does take quite a while for the wildcard to really, to feel the effects of that wildcard. And I think one thing I've noticed with my, last 3 seasons is I tend to finish the season really strongly in FPL. So I kind of start maybe a bit shakily. This season I started very well. Maybe I kind of do pretty poorly in the middle part around winter. But then in the third part of the season, the final push, That's where I kind of get my act together. And I'm pretty happy with my wildcard. I think I addressed a lot of the issues I had. I got in 2 of the best goalkeepers up until this point of the season in Ramsdale and Sarr. Now, they didn't really do that well in Game Week 26, either of them, with no clean sheets there. And they did play each other, of course, by the way. Trent and Robertson, I mean, I'm very happy with that. Robertson missed the first game of Game Week 26, actually. But he made up for it in the second game against Norwich, I believe. Salah, look, I'm going to say this. I've said this all along. I really like Salah. I really did as the triple captaincy. I said you're not going to get an easier triple captaincy choice pretty much ever, really. You know, he's facing Leeds and Norwich at home. But I personally went for the wild card because, as you saw in my Game Week 25 team, there were too many issues to really, deal with. And if I had triple captain Salah, yes, I would have gotten 84 points, I believe it was, by triple captaining him. So I would have gained 28 points as a result. But then, would I have had Son? No, I wouldn't. Would I have had even Weghorst for that game week? No, I wouldn't have. Even all these kind of different players like Robertson, no. And a few others that were also very good for the final stretch of the season. And Heung-min Son, this is where I finally got him in. And I never looked back with the South Korean. And this is where, obviously he had a few kind of, let's say, meager performances from, let's say, Game Week 27 to Game Week 31, but he still got some goals in that time period, and then after that, he just really pushed on from Game Week 30 really onwards. Cody was a disappointment again, but I made a lot of changes, as you can see. So the main ones really were Jose Sarr, Tierney, Robertson, Jarrod Bowen, Weghorst, Jimenez, Heung-min Son, Broja, who, by the way, after Game Week 25, I think it was, he just blanked for the rest of the season. Luca Dean I actually kept on the wild card, bit of a surprising one. Rafinha as well, with 7 points on my bench. I believe that was against United where he got those points. He had a bit of a tough double game week, and I obviously knew the risk of benching him. In hindsight, should I maybe gone for a back three or something like that? Maybe. I actually was really considering benching Weghorst in this instance, but luckily enough I didn't. And Weghorst come up very clutch for me. I think he got 12 points against Brighton, 2 against Spurs. But in the end, he was a very big disappointment after this period. But still a decent wildcard, I think on the whole pretty successful, but you can see a recurring theme from this point onwards because Tierney and Ramsdale, double Arsenal defence, not many clean sheets from Game Week 26 until the end of the season, and Wolves, the same thing. So actually, let's talk about this. So from Game Week 26 to the end of the season, how many clean sheets did Arsenal get? So they kept one against Leicester, and that was probably Ramsdale's last very good game. They kept one against Villa. So 2 clean sheets. Imagine that, 2 clean sheets from Game Week 26 until 38. That is unbelievably bad. Yeah, Arsenal really fell off. So you could say in hindsight that wasn't the greatest decision, but there weren't many standout goalkeepers, I think, for the final stretch. Maybe Dubravka was one of the better ones. As for Wolves, how many clean sheets did they keep? So they lost to West Ham. They got a clean sheet there against Watford. They got a clean sheet against Everton. We're going to talk about this one, by the way, very soon. Jesus Christ. So that's 2 clean sheets. They lost to Newcastle as well. Not a clean sheet. So 2 clean sheets again. A recurring theme once again. So Wolves and Arsenal, since Game Week 26, when we all got them then, we're looking to that 28 bench boost. 2 clean sheets for both teams in 12 game weeks. That is unbelievably bad. And remember, there were some double game weeks for them as well. So that was pretty awful. I went from 600k to 84k in 38 with this Kane-Son combo. What? No way. You went from 600k to 84k? That seems bizarre. I mean, you must have scored over 100 points easily then in 38. If so, that's fair play, mate. That's a fantastic rank rise and a great way to salvage your season. That is fantastic if that's true. Jesus. So Game Week 27, we're kind of on the topic of hits, or should I say chips here. I used a free hit. I'll be honest, this is kind of this was a bit of a damage limitation free hit, so to speak. The Game Week 37 one, which was much more successful, was more aggressive, and obviously that was one of the biggest game weeks for me of the season. Game Week 27 though, so I went from 112k to 105k, so I barely gained anything. After using 2 chips, I went up by 17,000 places. Not exactly ideal, and I wasn't exactly full of confidence at this stage of the season. But if we go through this, Forster in goal, got the clean sheet, very happy with it. Some people had Livramento, who I think ended up getting 9 points in this game week, so maybe I was regretting it a little bit there. I actually had a Marty on my bench with 8 points, but I was never really going to start him. Bruno Fernandes, oh my god. This guy was unbelievably bad against Watford. He missed sitters, 1v1 chances. He could have squared it to Ronaldo as well. And also I went for Sterling and Mahrez. And in the end, it was Phil Foden who scored in Gameweek 27. So yeah, in the end, if I had Foden instead of one of those players, I would have been more happy with that. And I captained Weghorst. This is the second time that you've seen during this season review where I've captained a player from one of the poorest teams in the league. So obviously Dennis and Watford in their double game week, and then Weghorst here. And ultimately, I think Son and Kane would have been definitely the way to go. Now, Son actually had a bad game here against Leeds, but he scored a very late goal around the 70th, 80th minute. And I think Doherty, this was when he really came alive as an FPL asset, and he never looked back. So obviously, those of you who went with Doherty when he was an extreme differential, fair play to all of you. I maybe had him in my thoughts or considered him, but I don't think he was ever really going to make it because I backed Burnley to maybe keep one clean sheet. And Ben-Mee and Tarkowski were facing two opponents, including Crystal Palace, that really struggled in terms of set pieces. So in the end, this was a very disappointing free hit. My big hitters like Sterling and Fernandes were pretty poor. The difference, though, and why I got a green arrow was Son and Kane. That was the difference. Cancelo also got 9 points, and Forster got me a clean sheet, but the rest, blanking, very disappointing. And in the end, I think captaining just a player that you trust, Heung-min Son or Harry Kane, was the way to go. They were facing Leeds, who at that point were conceding 4 or 5 goals pretty much every single game. I think they had just come off the back of conceding, was it 6 or 7 against Liverpool? I'm not too sure what the score was again. But I think Son or Kane should have been the captain. And Weghorst captain, that's something I want to address for next season. Unless someone from a relegated team or like a relegation candidate is going to have a triple game week, for example, I don't think it's worth going for them as the captain in most cases. So there you go. Game week 27, a bit underwhelming, but still a green arrow nonetheless. And then another chip here, the bench boost. Now, it does seem a bit weird here, doesn't it, to bench Son. It was basically him or Saka. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, if you look at it, the 3 weakest players of this team are Broja, Adams, and you could arguably say Jacob Ramsey. So overall, what would that be? 10, 14, 16 points on a bench boost. That's not too bad, actually. But it's still a bit underwhelming. I've seen some crazy bench boost scores, especially for Gameweek 36. It's a bit underwhelming. I think in terms of my chip usage, I nailed the second free hit. And I also did decent with my wildcards, but not too great, actually. I think my chip usage wasn't that great, actually, looking at it now. I could have gained more points with every single one of them, except my second free hit. So that's something I want to look to improve for next season. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how things are going to turn out. A lot of variance does come into play. But let's say, for example, if I had triple captain Salah in 26, and then I had wildcard in 28, what I would have done, actually, is go for the likes of Coutinho and Rudiger. And I was very close, actually, to taking a -8 instead of a -4 in the Game Week 28. And I would have got those 2 players in, and I would have had a completely different week. But guess what? I didn't. And I think Game Week 28 was one of the poorer weeks. I got a red arrow. So I went from 105k to 106k. Not too bad, but I did play my bench boost. So that's not what you want to see. However, from this point onwards, so from 29 to 38, I only had 2 more red arrows for the rest of the season. So as you can see, a really strong end to the season for me. Especially towards the very end. I read that. Game week 27, where the cash magic starts. And Game week 28, let's not even mention that. 29 points. Going for cash over Luka Dean, for example, that's another example of variance. So I don't even want to think too much about how many points I lost. I think Luka Dean was injured for the first game. Or something like that. Let's actually double check this. So he missed out against Southampton when they won 4-0. Very frustrating. Matty Cash gets all the points, and then he gets just a clean sheet against Leeds. So I missed out on like 23 points just by going Dean over Cash alone, and I don't think the difference was that big between the two. And a lot of people went for Cash over Dean for Game Week 37, and then they missed out again. So that was kind of a bit of a frustrating one. Joseph actually got me 9 points, so very happy with him and Cody. They got a clean sheet there in the double game week. Saka with 12, Trent, that's kind of his favourite number, isn't it? 12, so he typically gets an assist. Also some bonus points there as well. Salah blanked, Rafinha as my captain. Oh my god. So basically, if I had gotten Coutinho and Rudiger, or even Reece James, they would have been my captain, especially Coutinho. So yet again, we're talking about huge margins here. How many points I missed out on. Going for the likes of Ramsey as well, taking a -4 instead of a -8. Game week 28 is one example where I could have gained 30, 40 more points from these 50-50 decisions. And look, I don't think the Dean cash one was a huge one. Like, I don't really regret that too much. But I think I made a mistake going for Jacob Ramsey. And I think, let's see the other moves. So I did Bowen and Weghorst to Ramsey and Adams for a -4 hit. That was a mistake. I should have gone for Coutinho and Rudiger or James. And I would have gained 30, 40 more points. And as a result of that, I could have been in the top 10k. So that was my mistake there. But Luca Dean or cash, yeah, 23-point swing. But I don't think it was as bad of a decision as that swing would suggest. But yeah, the bench boost, not the worst, but also not the greatest. Pretty average, as you can see. And at this point, I wasn't really expecting too much. And as long as I could maybe beat my previous rank, I would have been happy. So looking back on it now, I'm very happy with where I ended up overall. So here we go. Triple captaincy. I got 116 points. Now, I actually got a healthy green arrow here, I believe. So let me double check this. So yeah, Gameweek 29, I went from 106k to 72k. The main reason why is because of triple Spurs. So I did Luca Dean and Ramsey, literally once again, just bringing them in, realizing they're pretty terrible FPL assets like Ramsey, and then getting rid of them. And I got Doherty and Kulusevski from -4. Now, this is an example of a good hit. You know, Spurs had a decent double. And look, I didn't have Harry Kane. That was a bit of a shame. Heung-min Son as well. I was actually considering captaining him, and it's a good thing I didn't. But I used the triple captaincy on Salah this time round. He scored the penalty. I was very lucky with that. Just before he came off the pitch, injured against Brighton, and then he made a short cameo against Arsenal. So an underwhelming triple captaincy. Same goes for the bench boost, the free hit, and arguably even the wild card. But look, you can't have it all your way. And look, Ramsdale there with 10 points, Cherney with 7. And by the way, who did Arsenal play in this moment? Was it Leicester? I'm going to double check this. Arsenal played Leicester, yet. And Arsenal kept back-to-back clean sheets here in 29 and 30, and then ended up not keeping another one for the rest of the season. I got Doherty here for his 7-pointer, not too bad, but a bit underwhelming considering his 14-point haul. 14-point haul against Everton and 18 points against Leeds. He got the clean sheet against Brighton. Spurs somehow lost against United because of Ronaldo's heroics. And then, yeah, Trent with 13 points. Robertson was the star of the show. And I think this is one of the best decisions I made, bringing in Robertson on the wildcard in 26. He has been the difference for me in terms of maybe finishing top 50k and finishing in the top 15k. Rafinha with another return there, 5 points. Adams got me an assist. Pretty happy with that. So pretty much everyone returned for me. Heung-min Son technically blanked both times. He got a clean sheet against Brighton, 3 points. He missed some big chances in that game, I believe. And also against United, he kept on slipping, if you remember that game correctly. But still, technically, it was a return from every single player that you can see here. Saka also with an assist. And I had, this is the one, Cody, 14-pointer against Everton, third on my bench. Who could I have started him over? Ideally, it would have been Adams, but you can't play a 4 or a 5-5-0 formation, unfortunately. So I don't really regret that decision too much. But yeah, it's not nice to see someone with a star with 14 points sitting on your bench. Jose Sarr also got a clean sheet, but luckily Ramsdale beat him with an incredible performance once again against Leicester. So yeah, in Gameweek 29, I went up to 72k. And this is where I really started to make up ground, even though the triple captaincy wasn't the greatest actually, especially with the Salah Gameweek 26 haul, Kevin De Bruyne 36, and a few other instances that we have seen throughout the whole season. So let me go through any more questions that you have. I'll never ever forget the night, says Waste saying, yeah, Gameweek 28, my team went crazy, 144 points, 16 to 4k. This is what I mean. Everyone has a different kind of game week of the season. For me, 28 was one of the worst because of these kind of 50-50 decisions that went the other way. And also I made the mistake, like I said, not going for the Chelsea defender and Coutinho. Because I'll be honest, I captained Rafinha. I didn't want to actually captain him, but I didn't have any confidence in the rest of my players. So that just goes to show sometimes if a player is, you know, worthy of a captaincy and you definitely put the armband on him, it's worth taking that extra hit. And I should have done so for Coutinho and Reece James or Rudiger. So there you go. So fair play, and there you go. Everyone has a kind of different week to really boast about. Gameweek 28 is definitely not one for me. So now let's go on to Gameweek 30. And a lot of people free hitted in this week. And I said it even back then. Look, you could maybe gain a lot from it by going for Son and Kane as a duo. And I think that was the kind of biggest achievement from free hitters. But I didn't think it would be a high-scoring week. So I was very, very lucky. And also, I'd say I made a good decision in terms of saving the free hit. Because in the end, that was, once again, the difference between my final rank and maybe finishing a bit lower. So Jose Sarr and Cody, I think on another day, they would have got the clean sheet. You know, if Jimenez didn't get sent off, I think Wolves go on to win that game. And maybe Leeds aren't in the Premier League anymore. You know, fine margins here. Tierney got a clean sheet, and that's the last time Arsenal kept a clean sheet for the rest of the season. Doherty didn't keep one against West Ham, but Son got 30 points, and I really needed that because I ended up captaining him despite his poor form, because I was actually in two minds here. I rolled the transfer in the end in Gameweek 30, and I was considering a -4 to get Harry Kane in up front, possibly for Raul Jimenez or Che Adams, and then go for maybe Harvey Barnes or Maddison in midfield. Luckily, I just held off. I went for Son captaincy, and that's another kind of 50-50 decision that actually went in my favour, because if I did that reverse switch for a -4 hit, I would have missed out on points in Gameweek 30, but also until the end of the season when Son went on an absolute rampage and outscored his teammate by a huge margin. So there you go. You know, these things can sometimes go against you. Saka scored, I think, a kind of deflected goal against Villa. He got 11 points. So Son, Saka and Tierney pretty much carried my week here. And I got a green arrow, I believe. Let's see. No, I got actually a small red arrow to 76k. But considering the fact that I had done no transfers and I didn't use the free hit in a very popular free hit week, very happy with Gameweek 30 as well. That was also a pretty important week there for me in terms of what I didn't do as well as what I did. So as you can see, there's always these kind of fine margins between where you end up finishing. So I'm also going to go now to Gameweek 31 and cover the rest of the season, and then I'll show you a few more things whilst answering your questions before wrapping up. So not doing a transfer in Gameweek 30 gave me the possibility of doing 2 transfers in Gameweek 31, and as fate would have it, as they say, didn't turn out to be great transfers as well. So I got rid of Cody and Jimenez. Once again, getting rid of those 2 players specifically was the right decision. But I got James and Weghorst in. I got in Weghorst once again because he had a double game week. I fell into that trap. He ended up getting 3 points there. And Reece James, you know, I chased the upside. He didn't even start the game. And then I believe he came on, got a yellow card, and Brentford pretty much annihilated Chelsea in that game. Robertson with 6 points. Like I said, he's probably one of the best transfers I made all season. The best wildcard pick, I think, that I've made as well, because he was also a differential. Doherty with 14 points here. Heung-min Son with 12. My captain Salah there was very disappointing there. And let me actually refresh my memory in terms of who Liverpool played. So Liverpool played Watford. So I don't really regret that. You know, Salah blanking against Watford at home, who would have thought? He came off a bit early as well. Meanwhile, Heung-min Son played Newcastle, and as you can see, look at these returns from 30 to 32. Son went on another level at the end of the season. He was a big reason why Spurs finished 4th. Che Adams and Weghorst very underwhelming, to be expected from, you know, the quality of player and also the quality of team at show. Rafinha with another assist, you know, a lot of 5-pointers for him in my team. Ramsdale, as you can see from this point onwards, was pretty useless for me. And then everyone else blanking pretty much. Trent was rested against Watford, but actually, I have to say, you know, from Gameweek 29 to the end, I think Spurs players really came clutch for me. You know, Heung-min Son in particular, Kulusevski in 38, Doherty when he was, you know, when he remained fit in game weeks like this, he was very crucial. But just wasn't able to nail some transfers. And actually, I could have gone for, I'm trying to think here. I could have maybe gone for Joao Cancelo over Reece James, but in order to do that, I couldn't have got Weghorst, and I needed a cheaper striker instead. Now, actually, it was in Gameweek 31, it was Richarlison who was really good. He scored a penalty, a late penalty, I believe, and he was the star of the show. And I believe I said he was a skip in that game week. So there you go. It just goes to show that sometimes things change, and you have to be open-minded about these things. So Game week 32, I scored 78 points. Another kind of solid game week for me. Rafinha finally got his double-digit return that we've all craved. Son, this was the big swing in my favour. I captained Son for his hat-trick against Aston Villa, and he got 42 points for me. Kulusevski with 12. Doherty came off early, actually. This is where he got injured for the rest of the season. Ramsdale got 1. Robertson with 0 because he didn't play at all, I believe. Or actually, no. This was against City, wasn't it? Yes, it was. The big game against City. Trent got 4 points. He got an assist. Reece James with 1. Saka with 1, Salah with an assist as well. Let me actually double check. Trent did get the assist. And then Adams, Tierney, Broja all blanking. I think Tierney by this point was injured, which was a big shame. And Arsenal season pretty much crumbled. Jose Sa with 3 points. I missed out on 2 points with the goalkeepers there. So this is where I wasn't really nailing it with the goalkeepers. And in the end, my goalkeepers were just letdowns in general. But Son captaincy really swung it in my favour. So in game week 32, I went from 65k to 50k. So as you can see, just kind of steady progression from when playing my wildcard in game week 26, 112k, 105k in game week 27, 106k in 28, and then up into the top 70k in 29, and they're just steadily going up. So by this point, I'm in the top 50k, and I've got a good chance, of having a very strong end to the season. So now we're going to go to game week 33, and this is where I end up doing a transfer. And guess what? I'm not actually taking massive hits or making, a lot of transfers. I just do a simple one. Kieran Tierney, who's injured for the rest of the season, to Fabian Schär, who ended up getting a clean sheet. So pretty happy with that. And I think he got bonus points, didn't he? For him to get 9 points. No, he got 2 points against Leicester and 7 against Crystal Palace. So he got 1 bonus point there. You can't really complain about that. Newcastle had a very strong end to the season, and their transformation under Eddie Howe is very impressive. It will be good to see what they do with investment in the summer. Ramsdale, they were free. I mean, I'm not even going to comment on the goalkeepers at this point. They were just abysmal, really. But yeah, I think Wolves, Leeds had a blank game week here. Che Adams and Broja, double Southampton attack. Very woeful. But Weghorst actually got me 10 points in the double game week. So very happy with that. Salah, as my captain, got me 38 points against United. Son was my vice. I have to say, during this period, I was kind of nailing the captaincy, I'd say. I was really nailing it, especially from 30 onwards. I captained Son when he got these hauls, and I captained Salah when he got that haul there against United. But and also, I can't forget to mention Trent and Robertson with clean sheets, and Saka with a 10-point return there. Very happy. And this is game week 33. So Arsenal played Chelsea, yes. So they had the double game week, so he blanked against Southampton, and he got 8 points against Chelsea with that late penalty. Otherwise, it was looking pretty grim for Saka, and a lot of his returns at the end of the season came from set pieces, whether it's a cross from a corner or a penalty that he got against Chelsea or Manchester United. So game week 34, 67 points. Doesn't look as good on paper, but guess what? It was another green arrow, I believe. If not, it was my last green arrow of the season. No, another green arrow. I went into 31k, so a kind of small green arrow there, and pretty impressive. Reece James blanking, Jose Sarr as well, yeah, standard stuff. But Trent and Robertson really clutch. Robertson 15 points. This was against Everton, I believe. So Trent got the yellow card. Robertson scored a late goal. And in game week 35, once again, I saved the transfer. And this is something I've been doing better this season. I've been rolling the transfer more often, and I haven't been going gung-ho and rage transferring as much, which I used to do a lot in previous seasons. So, having patience, and also the timing of the transfers has improved, but there's still room for improvement for sure. Saka with another double-digit return there against United with the goal and the assist and 3 bonus points. Kulusevski and Son blanking, actually. I think this was when they played Brighton and Brentford. Salah with 6 points. Mount as my captain with 10, so very underwhelming. Should have scored against United, for example. Pukki with 2, and he was actually one of my transfers in 34, so in game week 34, I did Rafinha and Adams to Mount and Pukki. I believe actually we are in game week 34, so that is my mistake. So yeah, we're in 34. I did 2 transfers at this point, but I did roll the transfer in the following game week, as we'll talk about very soon. But Pukki, another example of an awful transfer. And the time when I free hit him out in 37, he scores against Wolves. There you go. Weghorst, though, with another attack and return. So actually, Weghorst on the general, the grand scheme of things, was pretty generous to me. 14 points in game week 26. He got me 10 points in game week 33. And he got me an assist in 34. But apart from that, of course, as we all know very well, he did blank a lot there. So there, not really much more to comment on. Doherty was out for the rest of the season by this point. Fabian Schär as well, with 0 points there. Bro of 1, he's awful. Not much more to comment on. Game week 35, we're approaching the end. 68 points and another green arrow. So in game week 34, I went up to 31k. And in game week 35, I actually went up to 19k, even though I only got 68 points. And that's because I captained the right player. Most people went for Salah or a few others. I went for Heung-min Son, and he got 38 points. A massive return. And, this guy has been unbelievable. 19 points against Leicester. And actually, I said this before, if I had Kane, I would have gone for him as captain. But in the end, it was Son, doing the business. And I was quite fortunate that I had Son from game week 30 onwards, really. So as you can see, everyone else in my team was pretty poor. Kulusevski came off the bench and got 2 assists. Saka got an assist there with 4 points. Everyone else blanked apart from Robertson. But guess what? The captaincy was enough to get me that huge green arrow. and this was another game-changing week for me. And I actually said at this point, yes, I obviously got a huge green arrow thanks to Son, but I wasn't that happy because I did want Son to blank and for Spurs to fail. But there you go. Thank you, Domba, for the super chat. Much appreciated, mate. Thanks for a great season. Your content has been so chill and nice. We'll be here next year as well. See you for the first looks in July, early season start. Thank you, Domba. Much appreciated for the super chats, mate. You didn't have to, so thank you very much, you legend. And it's great to see you here once again. And yes, there's probably going to be content in terms of for next season. I'm not sure exactly when, but it could be even earlier. I want to kind of make some improvements for next season as well, so that I'll put a lot of work into that as well. Obviously, we're going to probably have a UCL fantasy season review, which will be even calmer than this one in terms of the live chat. But for anyone who does play UCL fantasy, a bit of that will also be a short video. There's only 30 match days, by the way, and we'll talk about the Champions League final. What happened there. But yeah, it should be great, and more FPL content coming up, and also F1 fantasy. So it's great to see you once again, and thank you, Durgish, for smashing the like button. Thank you very much for that. It's much appreciated. I still regret not captaining Saka in 30. Super tempted. I ended up captaining Barnes. I forgot who the most captained that game week. I'm really tempted to go for a differential. I think it would be Kane or Son. They were the most captain options in game week 30, I think. But yeah, Saka, I think he was my vice, if I'm not mistaken. We just went through game week 30. And he did, cross my mind, but I just went for Son because, I just had a feeling he'd turn things around with everyone doubting him. Vegas is really disappointing. He's really good at Wolfsburg. No idea what happened to him. I just don't think Burnley know how to get the best out of him. I think that's really one big part of that. Yes, he's also partly to blame. He missed like a crucial chance in game week 38 against Newcastle. He really should have scored too. Welcome, Aranya. Good evening as well. Yeah, what a season. I mean, going through all of this, kind of reliving the trauma and also reliving the good moments as well. Son captain squad, yeah. Son captaincy at the end of the season was a big, big game changer. I bet the prices and plays are around 10th to 15th of July, I bet. Yeah, look, I think it will be maybe even late June. We'll start to get some prices. And in terms of when the game goes live, I would expect early July if I had to hazard a guess. But it could be even sooner than that because the first game of the season is, the 6th of August? So you never know. But yeah, once again, thank you, Domba. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. Like Way's saying, it's much appreciated. Mickey also says, I feel like the first half of the season was a blur. Same here. Thank you for all your help, Dylan. Has been another great season. Got top 4K after being 27K last season. That's a really good progression. Obviously, fantastic rank the season before. And then you improved on that tenfold, really. So really good stuff. It has been a great season, and hopefully next year is even better. Not just in terms of rank, but also in terms of entertainment. So I'm going to now go through the last few game weeks of the season. This is the last red arrow I had. So game week 36, I got 90 points. So as you can see, going through all of this, a few things stand out to me. The double game weeks, the major double game weeks, 28, 26, and 36. I think I could have done better. So 26 wasn't too bad. I got a small green arrow, but I did wildcard, by the way. 28 was very underwhelming. I got a red arrow with a bench boost. And in 36, I got a very big red arrow. So I went from 19k to 35k. 90 is not a bad score, but a lot of people got like 100 plus, really. So in the grand scheme of things, wasn't too good. Kevin De Bruyne went crazy. That didn't help the matters there. And also, once again, it goes to highlight, how important the captaincy is. I captained Salah instead of the likes of Heung-min Son, and this was the 1 week in the last half of the season, the last 10 game weeks, where I got the captaincy completely wrong. But I don't really regret it too much. I didn't expect Salah to not feature or not to start against Villa, and he was very underwhelming against Spurs. But there you go. These things can happen. Mount, got that return in the second game against Leeds. Son went crazy. Against Arsenal, unfortunately, and also scored against Liverpool. Kulusevski with 5 points. Pukki got 4 points, so it's technically the equivalent of an assist and a yellow card. Saka with 4 points, so very disappointing there. Cancelo and Laporte both with 14 points, so not too bad, but Trent and Robertson blanking as well. How often is that going to happen? Ramsdale with 4 points, and everyone on my bench very, very poor. It's a very weak bench, and ultimately, I was really looking to optimise my starting 11. But as you can see, I had a poor forward in Pukki. I also, my defence, my Liverpool defenders let me down. But on paper, it's still a strong defence, having 2 City and Liverpool defenders. My midfield looks pretty solid here. But in the end, it wasn't enough to kind of salvage a grey or green arrow here. So Game Week 36 was once again up there with Game Week 28 and a few others. one of the worst game weeks of the season. So I need to improve for the big double game weeks next season. Maybe take more risks, which I didn't do in these 2 game weeks. I was trying to be a bit, conservative. I only took a -4 here. I did James, Doherty and Weghorst to Cancelo, Laporte and Dobbin. Maybe if I took an extra hit, be very bold and get rid of Salah for De Bruyne. You never know. But obviously that's very easy to say right now. I don't regret that decision too much. 28 is more of a regret than Game Week 36 in my opinion. But let me know. I think a lot of you would have done much better in Game Week 36 than I did. Now we're going to go for the last 2 game weeks of the season. We've gone through these quite quickly, but I've given you pretty much all the context and all the thoughts and what I've done well, what I haven't done well as well. It's very apparent that my double game weeks, the major double game weeks, I didn't really nail on, and even some of the smaller ones. When I captained Dennis for his red card, when I captained Weghorst as well in double game week 27, and also not going for Bruno Fernandes and going for Ronaldo instead. That was another example of not nailing the double game weeks, but there were still examples of good double game weeks for me. For example, game week 25, which was for me the game changer of the season. But look at this free hit. I mean, not much could have gone better here. Yes, Heung-min Son blanked. He should have scored against Burnley. Zaha was a bit underwhelming. And look, Barnes, for example, was an even better pick. But Maddison, 25 points. That is a huge haul. Captaining Richarlison, for example. Having Vardy. Not many people actually were talking about the Leicester double or triple up in attack. I was talking about the double up. I said they're not essential. You don't really need to go for them, but I have a good feeling about them if they do start, and I thought they would start at least one game, and probably against Watford. They did, and they made a difference. They were absolutely immense. Cash, Pickford and Mikalenko were very underwhelming, and Luka Dean actually got me an assist. 8 points for Luka Dean is, I don't know what to say. Like, am I daydreaming or what? It's very rare for him to haul in my team, so can't complain about that. I think the one regret I possibly have is going for Ings over Watkins, but that could easily be explained by the fact that Watkins was yellow flagged, and the comments by Gerrard were, well, he could play a part against Crystal Palace, for example, and that makes you think immediately he's probably coming off the bench, isn't he? But there you go. Watkins is very integral to Gerrard's system. He ended up starting, and Watkins got, I think, 7 more points or something like that, or 6 more points than Ings. But overall, not too many regrets. I actually had Sessegnon on my bench with 8 points. I was trying to jinx him. Didn't really work, as you can tell. Brownhill with 4 points, but I nailed the captaincy pretty much. I don't think I was ever going to go for Maddison, but I got 3 of the best players in that game week, and it was probably the best free hit I've ever played, and one of the best chips I've played ever. So game week 37 was a complete game changer, and how I just said, I went from 19k to 35k, from 35 to 36. Well, I actually made that and also gained some more, and went up to 16.7k. So game week 37 for me was by far the best game week of the season, and that's why I finished in the top 15k pretty much. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go through the questions now, and before concluding this video and talking about game week 38 and doing a review for that. Typically we do a team selection video. I talk about how I did in game week 38, and then obviously preview the next game week, but of course there is no more football for this season. So now I have to marvel at that one more time, by the way. 110 points with the free hit. I'm very happy with that. 78 points to conclude the season, but I did take a -4. And I'm going to tell you how many hits I took, by the way. I want you guys to guess, how many hits have I taken this season? You might be very surprised by the figure. But before I go into that kind of review of Game Week 30, I'm going to take a quick water break and then go through your final questions. And then go through a few more things that I want to cover in this kind of quick and short stream. But obviously, thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. It's much appreciated. I know football's over, we all want to relax, but it's much appreciated for you to even consider tuning in today. It's just much appreciated. I can't really say much more. It's been a blast doing all these streams and videos, and I look forward to seeing you next season as well, and also throughout the summer. Don't forget, we're not going on hiatus, we're still here. But yeah, just a quick break. I'll be honest, my voice is a bit mad, but yeah, I'll be back in a second. Just for those of you who want to see how I've done in F1 Fantasy, and if you want to see F1 Fantasy kind of deadline streams and stuff like that, then let me know. But yeah, we'll talk more about F1 Fantasy in future team selection videos, and I'll try to contain my voice because I'll be honest, I think we streamed like 2 hours yesterday, and right now we're streaming for like over 2 hours as well. But yeah, my voice it was already kind of going yesterday. I don't know why. Let's go back to my team here. And as you can see, I nailed the captaincy once again. Yes, Kulusevski scored more points, but I was never really considering from the captaincy. It was always Kane or Son for me. I knew Spurs were going to win by like 3 or 4 goals. Arsenal fans had that kind of hope that Norwich could maybe beat them, but that's just all Arsenal's fault, not doing the job themselves. Now, my regret really in Gameweek 38, because I took a -4. I did Salah and Pukki to Barnes and came for -4. My regret is not having enough team value to go for Maddison over Barnes. And once again, Maddison with a goal and an assist. I really wanted him in 38. I just wasn't able to do so. Maddison is such a streaky player, and I'm actually considering him to start in the next season. But a lot depends on the fixtures. I think Maddison will be 7.5 million or 8 million next season. I think he's been very, very good. He could even be 8.5. Looking at it now, actually, I have a funny feeling he's going to be 8 million. But if he's 7.5, I'm going for him, I think. I think I'd definitely consider him. Harvey Barnes, like I said, one of 2 players alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold to be my Gameweek 1 team and 38. So, I mean, a bit surprising, really. But Barnes came back in. He got an assist. Can't really complain too much. It was an incredible run by him to assist Jamie Vardy. But I got Son right as the captain. Obviously, he did miss some chances in the first half. And it was a bit nervy there. Maybe I got the captaincy wrong. And maybe I would have got a red arrow out of the top 20k. But happy with that. Cancelo and Laporte only with 1 point. I thought City would be much better in Gameweek 38. But there you go. Still got, just a return from Robertson, really. The rest of the back line was awful. Only one attacker, which kind of gives you an insight into what I feel about the forwards this season. However, what I will say is that the forwards actually improved towards the end. Jamie Vardy became an option, Richarlison as well, and Harry Kane. Those 3 were pretty consistent towards the end. But on the whole, forwards were a big, big disappointment this season. We all thought Lukaku and Ronaldo would justify their price tags, or at least be somewhat, reliable options. Not so much. Ronaldo still had a good individual season, just didn't really live up to the 12 million price tag. Saka with the assist there against Everton in a 5-goal thriller, or technically a 6-goal thriller against Everton. But yeah, that's pretty much, we talked about this briefly in the reaction stream. Ramsdale, as he has been since Gameweek 30, very, very disappointing. Trent, he's still been fantastic all season, but Cancelo and Laporte, especially in terms of Cancelo, I would have expected a bit more from him when he was in my team. So I don't think I kind of nailed the right period. City tend to go on a really good run during the winter, from December to February. That's something I've noticed in the last 2 seasons, and that's something I will have in mind for the next Premier League campaign. Spurs triple attack. Look, Spurs players have really been the difference between me finishing in my rank and lower. And I think I will want to go for one of the attackers next season, whether it's Kulusevski, who will probably be 7.5 or 8 million, or it could be Son or Harry Kane. Will Son be a midfielder next season? Let's wait and see. It will be very interesting. But as you can see, I had a very weak bench at the end. Cher had that concussion against Arsenal, couldn't play. Bray didn't even feature at all. Or did he get a yellow card actually in 38? No, he didn't even feature at all against Leicester. Jose Sa with 1 point. I was actually very fortunate in Gameweek 38 that everyone featured and started the games. And obviously, once again, Son, Kane, Kulusevski, and Robertson were the best players in that team. Saka and Barnes, obviously, welcome returns. Everyone else blanking. I'm very surprised by Mason Mount blanking there against Watford, but there you go. You can't always have it. And that's where it brings us to a halt. My team value ended up being 104 million and 15,428 rank to conclude a really good season for me personally. Obviously, we grew a lot in FPL in terms of the YouTube community. We went to 11,000 subscribers during the deadline stream, and this is my best ever FPL rank. Now, let me just deal with this spammer, so to speak. Yeah, that's the right one. Now I'm going to go through your questions that we have, but that's pretty much it. That's the kind of review for the 38 game weeks, and I kind of pointed out a few things that I've done right and wrong throughout the way. If you want to kind of recap of that, then let me know. But yeah, as you can clearly see, there are some things that I definitely got wrong, and the double game weeks, the major ones, I really need to sort out for next season. So let's go through the stuff I missed. I think the Spurs assets made the most difference in everyone's team this season. I agree, especially in my case. I personally got it horribly wrong in terms of who between Kane and Son. I got it wrong almost 9 out of 10 times. Yeah, the way I looked at it is I stuck with one and I just, I rolled with it. I almost did Son to Kane in 30, which some people did, and that was a game-changing decision, and it could have gone really wrong for me. So, yeah, and I got Kane in for Gameweek 38, and actually that Son-Kane duo was really important for me in the season before with Jose Mourinho and Ryan Mason. So, yeah, I think Spurs players were very integral into our FPL teams. Doherty at the back, Kulusevski in the midfield. Those four players were very, very good. It's funny because you look at the rest of the FPL options for Spurs. Yeah, Lloris isn't too bad. Sessegnon became a very good enabler at the end. But apart from that, the rest of the Spurs assets aren't that good FPL-wise. The decision itself stopped my team from getting a much, much better rank at the end where I actually finished. Yeah, but then you can also see some things that you did that maybe were a bit lucky. Or 50-50 decisions that you're not sure about. You just went with one decision and you ended up gaining from it. So, you can't always get everything right, otherwise you're probably going to finish first. But yes, obviously you always remember the decisions you got wrong and the ones you really regret and that really stick in your mind. Welcome FIFA Gamer. I'm good. What about you? Having Barnes instead of Maddison and Kane in place of Son, these two decisions made the difference between a good FPL season and a great one for me. Where did you end up finishing, Aranya? I still think you finished well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, in terms of my kind of looking over the course of the season, I think one big mistake in Gameweek 28 was not going for Coutinho and Rudiger or Reece James. That's the one that really stands out. Gameweek 22, I think it was, or 23. Let me just double check that. Yeah, Gameweek 22, going for Ronaldo and Trossard instead of just going for Bruno. But there's the thing, though. Let me just actually put it this way, and then you'll kind of realise how, how do I even put this? There's a few words that kind of escape my mind, but basically the variance that can happen. So in Gameweek 22, I was aggressive. I took a -8 hit. I went for Trossard, Ronaldo, and I think I went for Cucurella. So I went really aggressive, but I actually got burnt by being aggressive. And actually in that case, going for the lower hit, going for Bruno Fernandes, or even just a normal transfer, Salah to Bruno would have actually gained me a lot more points because I would have captained the Portuguese midfielder instead. But instead I did the Ronaldo move. I kind of did mental gymnastics. I took a bigger hit and I got punished for it. But then fast forward a few weeks later, in Gameweek 28, I only took a -4 hit instead of taking the -8 for Coutinho and Rudiger, and I got burnt by not being aggressive enough. So look, I'm not trying to justify my mistakes because I did make mistakes there. But there's always context. There's always reasons why you make these decisions, and that's the most important thing. Now in Gameweek 28, to be honest, looking back on it, getting Ramsey and Adams, just think about that. Getting Ramsey and Adams for -4, that is a mistake. Just looking at it plain and simple, you're getting a cheap enabler who's a really good young talent, but is he going to cover Coutinho? Most likely he won't. And also Che Adams, I'd rather get a Chelsea defender, really, Rudiger or Reece James, especially with the double they had, including Burnley. So really, I should have taken the -8 hit. But when I look at Gameweek 22, as bad as it was, as bad as I lost out on 30, 40 points, I don't think the decision was that bad compared to Gameweek 28, which really sticks out like a sore thumb. Because in Gameweek 22, what I was thinking was, and I said this earlier when we were talking about Gameweek 22, I got rid of Salah, but I wanted to get Ronaldo in because he was the main guy for United ever since he came in, and Bruno wasn't really doing it. And a lot of his returns against Villa were lucky, in my opinion. Yes, he got the returns, but they were lucky. So in the end, I do think that the Gameweek 22 one, yes, it looks really bad, but then look at what Trossard done at the end of the season. I know what he's capable of. Obviously, I didn't expect him to be that good at the end. But I don't think the transfers were that bad, really. I think they made sense. But in the end, I just didn't get that right. But Gameweek 28, that's just a complete mistake by me. Getting Che Adams and Ramsey for a -4 instead of Coutinho and Rudiger for a -8, that's a really big mistake by me. So, Mickey, you guessed -52 hits. That's a good guess. You're quite close, actually, but it's not quite there. So, yeah, I'll be talking about that very soon. As someone who played Championship Fantasy, I'm looking forward at Wilson, Robinson, Billing, Travers, Zamora and Mitrovic. I'll make a note of what you say, Superstar. I'll check those players out. I think Mitrovic is definitely the kind of no-brainer. The rest are definitely intriguing options. I'm going to, like I said, over the summer I'm going to do more research into the newly promoted sides and try to come up with some players that we need to consider for next season. Enjoy being with you, Dylan. Once again, I can't wait for next season. Thank you, Ori. Likewise, it's always good to see you here. And yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Burn versus Maddison. I think Maddison will be cheaper So, for example, Bowen could be like 8.5 to 9.5. I could easily see that being the case. And if Maddison is 7.5, for example, I would go for Maddison personally. But obviously, Bowen, I think, is more consistent. He's less injury prone. But Maddison is such a streaky player. I really like him. All my chips gave me red arrows, but finished on 64.5k. Really good rank. And yeah, I think Look, I got a green arrow from both my wildcards, straight away. Minimal ones, though. I got a minimal green arrow from my free hit. I got a red arrow from my bench boost. And I got a green arrow from my triple captain. And I got a really big green arrow in my second free hit. However, I still think I could have done better with my wildcards. And also my first free hit. And obviously, with that wild card, that also plays into the bench boost. So the bench boost red arrow was also a result of the wild card that I played 2 weeks prior. I finished at 153k, Dylan. It would have been much better, but this being my first season playing FPL. No, that's still a good rank though. For your first season, I still think that's great. And you're going to learn from the things you did wrong. And also, you already mentioned it yourself. There's a lot of 50-50 decisions that went the other way. And, you can't really blame yourself for some of them. Matt FCR7, Maddison and KDB increased my ranking at times where not too many are buying them. That's kind of the aim of the game, isn't it? And we're always looking for that kind of differential that can really push us up the ranks and that can make the difference for us. And for you, it was those 4 players. Matip was a really big surprise for me. His injury record in previous seasons, and with Kanate being in the side, I was thinking, is he actually going to play, especially in double game weeks? And look, he's been fantastic. He's been up there with Robertson and Van Dijk. So fair play to all of you. And Matip actually is the best value for money player in the entire game this season, which is quite odd. I think he will be more expensive next season, though. I think he'll be 5.5 to 6 million. I'd be very surprised if he's 5 again. If he is, he's definitely on my radar. So that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he can stay fit as well. So actually, the final answer in terms of how many hits I've taken this season is 40. So I've taken, just to kind of recap, I took the first hit in Gameweek 4. I took a -4 hit. I took a -4 hit again in Gameweek 10. I took a -4 hit in Gameweek 21, which was a double Gameweek. I got Bowen in. That was a very good hit, actually. Gameweek 22, I took a -8, which actually turned out to be a disaster, where I got Ronaldo instead of Bruno, and I missed out on like 30, 40 points as a result. I took a -4 in Gameweek 24. Yet again, another example of a hit not really paying off. So really, when we're looking at it, Gameweek 4, where I got Ronaldo in for Fernandes, I took a -4. That was a good example of a decent hit. And Game Week 21, that was a fantastic hit for me. And I also captained Jarrod Bowen. And then in Game Week 28, I took a -4. That was one of the worst Game Weeks of the season. And it really could have been a game changer. I could have been in a much higher rank as a result. I keep on saying it. Game Week 28 for me was the worst for me personally. And it was my biggest fault there. Game Week 29, I took a -4. I triple captained. And actually, that was one of the best hits I've taken. I went from 1 to 3 Spurs players. I got Kulusevski and Doherty in. And then I took 2 more hits. So Game Week 36, I took a -4. And that was once again a poor Game Week for me. But the hit did make sense. And I don't regret it too much. And Game Week 38, the final Game Week of the season, I took a -4 to get Harry Kane and Harvey Barnes for Salah and Pukki. So actually, hits have been quite mixed bag for me. Like I said before, Game Week 21 was a good example, 29 and 38, all good examples of very good hits. But the rest were quite mixed bag, really, and some of them were awful, like Game Week 28, as you can see. So let me actually show you a few things. So congratulations to Tess Ocklin. Ocklin for winning the league. He's actually ranked 10th in the world, so great to see you in this league. Thank you very much, and fantastic rank there. Then you've got a few more like Griggle, Barry, Nemanja, Freddie, Martin, Steve, Ahmed, Jaden, Neil, Josh, Martin, Marius and Eamon, all in the top 14. Huge shout out to all of you, mate. All of you for being here. Wei Seng as well, being 16th. Obviously, you're in the chat right now. Come dine with me, or come dine with me, obviously, is the pronunciation you're looking for. That's some pretty nice names. But yeah, look, shout out to all of you. I mean, there's so many of you to really read out every single one of you. But I mean, fantastic ranks. As you can see, I finished 67th in the in my own league, which isn't too bad actually. I think that's pretty decent. And we have a lot of members in here. I'm not sure how many, but I think we have over 1,000. I'm gonna see if I can find a way to check. So let me see how many people we had in the end. So we had over 20 pages worth. That is crazy. I think we had over 1,000. Yeah, we did. So 1,050, 1,100. Oh my god, we're gonna keep going, aren't we? Oh my god, this is crazy. Do we have 2,000? My god. Oh, whoa. Yeah, so we had 2,110 people in this league. So thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. Hopefully we can push on from that number next season. And as always, it's always kind of on the left-hand side of your screen. I might change the graphics next season, and if I do, then obviously that might adjust a little bit. I always have it in the description below as well. 886RGT. I can't tell you how many times I generated a new league name in order to get one I liked. I liked the number 1886. I think that's when one of my clubs were founded, actually. So yeah, I think Arsenal were founded in 1886, actually. Not to, but yeah, that was the league. And like I said before, thank you very much to everyone. And we had number 10 in the world in our own league, which is great to see. And as you can see, the top goalkeepers, and he said top goal scorers: Alisson in first position, Laurie second, Edison third, Jose Sarr fourth, Fabianski fifth, Ramsdale sixth, and then you know the rest of the list. We're going to go through these quite quickly. I want to actually make quickly, before we wrap up, the kind of, in my opinion, the best team of the season. And obviously be sure to let me know what you think. Trent, as always, top of the pile. Cancelo, the first time he has reached over 200 points. Robertson third, only 3 points more than Van Dijk. And look at Matip, amazing, for his value, 170 points. Laporte there, fantastic season as well. Rudiger, Cash, Gabriel, James, Diaz, Cody. And Gabriel actually has the most goals of any defender this season, so really, really good stuff. And even Dyer's up there, which says a lot. I think Chilwell would have been right up here if he had stayed fit as well. Reece James as well. But yeah, midfielders, no surprises here. Salah, only 7 points ahead of Son. And remember, Salah was in a league of his own, especially in the first half of the campaign. Son second, Bowen third. These three were the best midfielders by far. I said it before. Those were the three most reliable. De Bruyne, really good end of the season to almost finish on 200 points. Mane, his final Premier League season, it looks like it could be off to Bayern Munich. Maddison, Saka, Jota, Mount, Sterling, Ward-Prowse, Bernardo Silva. So some interesting names in the top. You would expect a few new names like Diaz potentially to be right up there next season. But yeah, look at that. I mean, the top five don't really surprise me too much. It's what I would have expected considering what we've seen at the end. I think Mount, he had a great season. I think he could push on as well. Saka as well. I'm very surprised by his goal output in this campaign. I think Foden will push on as well. He was a bit underwhelming, I'd say, especially for me personally. Only one return. He's very, very jarring sometimes. As for forwards, I mean, this is a bit of a poor list, as you can see. But Harry Kane, Ronaldo and Pukki in the top three. Antonio, he was the top scoring forward for such a long time, but he tailed off towards the end. Ivan Toney completing the top five. Dennis, Vardy, Watkins, Richarlison, Jesus, Saint-Maximin, Ings, etc. Then we have Che Adams, Jimenez, all of the strikers who have 100 points or more. The rest couldn't even reach that figure, including the likes of Lukaku, which just goes to show how poor he's been. Lacazette with 90. He actually got me, 16 points in 2 game weeks, so Lacazette was actually great for me FPL-wise, but in general, he was pretty awful. So, yeah, Harry Kane, I expect him to be more popular next season, especially if Son is a forward. Ronaldo, he must be, he has to be lower. Maybe 11 million, 10.5 million. He surely can't be more than that. Antonio, probably 7.58 million next season as well. Vardy, I'm very interested to see his price. I think he'll be 10.5 at 11 million again. Whenever he starts, he gets goals. He is a class act. And Richarlison ended the season very strongly. So a few strikers to keep an eye on. But ultimately, I think we all know the striker on our minds. Erling Haaland. What price is he going to be? I personally think he's going to be 12 million. Maybe 11.5. If he's any lower, everyone's going to have him basically. So Arsenal, keep thinking about Arsenal, they're in free in my head. FPL headquarters have a decision to make in terms of the prices and Haaland. That's going to be very interesting. And how many premiums can we fit into our teams? And once that's all confirmed, I'm going to be talking about that in my Twitter, on the Discord server, and also in the YouTube videos. And we're going to be talking about these premiums and the best assets for the defenders, goalkeepers, midfielders, and attackers, as we've just done. Who's going to be on this list next season, this time next year? Should be very interesting to see. And as you can see, a kind of confirmation of my season history. So as you can see, very good start to the season. From game week 6 all the way to game week 24. Look how many red arrows I had. It was kind of very mixed bag. I'd go up, then down. I'd even have consecutive red arrows. And from 22 to 24 was awful. 3 consecutive red arrows. The only time I've had 3 in a row, I think. But then look at this. From game week 25 all the way to 38. Really, really good end to the season, and I'm very happy with where I've ended up. I didn't expect it, especially around, let's say, game week 26 to 28 when I played my chips. I thought I'd blown it, but in the end, the long-term effects of the wild card, some good decision making, good captaincy choices, all went in my favour. And as you can see here, a kind of confirmation of the chips I've used. So the wild cards I used in game week 8 and 26. So I used them quite early actually. Otherwise, I was looking to use the wild card, maybe the second one in game week 32 onwards, depending on how the double game weeks would have kind of come along. The free hit, I was actually maybe considering using it in 30, but I'm happy I didn't. I used it in 27, which was kind of just a damage limitation. That's why I called that free hit. But the second one was very aggressive, and that was the game changer for me. Triple captain was decent. That game week was still very good for me. Game week 29. Game week 28, though, the bench boost was awful, and I made some big mistakes with the transfers. So game week 28 was awful for me. Same with, I'd say, game week 36, but 28 more so. And there you go. That's a kind of season review. Let's go now to the FPL team of the season. But before we do that, I'm going to go for any questions or comments that you may have in the chat. So let's see. Okay, we've got quite a few, actually. So I answered that question already, Manda. Obviously, I'm not accusing you of not listening. I'm just saying, I've answered that, or I've said it without knowing what you asked. So in terms of Haaland, I think he will be 12 million, maybe 11.5. I'd say 12 though. Let's get a few more things here. So Mac Drac, I think it is. Matip CR7. I think I read that already. Watch out for Ivan Perisic. I agree. I think a comment later on says that. Superstar, yeah. I think he'll play left wing back and Region will make way because Kulusevski's going to be there. Son and Kane, that's the front three. I think Perisic is the left wing back. Doherty, if he's fit, right wing back. And they'll probably try to sign Bastoni, Romero, and then maybe have Dyer. I'll be honest, that's a pretty good looking defence there. And they'll have Lloris in goal. And then Højbjerg in midfield alongside Bentancur. Yeah, I think Spurs will push on next season. I think they'll... Not sure about top four. It depends on how United, Chelsea, Liverpool and City do. I mean, for me, City and Liverpool fight for the title. I think City will win it right now. I think Chelsea might struggle a little bit. It just depends on their transfer activity. I think United will do better. So it's going to be between Chelsea, United and Spurs, I think, for third and fourth, personally. Do our FPL chips... do our FPL change next season? I'm not sure what you mean by your FPL. In terms of your ID, it does change. And yes, there will be changes. We're just not too sure what. But for example, the bench boost could be removed. You can try to check out FPL Optimize to review your season. Yeah, there's quite a lot of sites that do this sort of thing, actually. There'll be more data and analytics. I'll check that out and see if there's anything else that we can add to this analysis as well. I finished at 600k last season, so quite happy with 153k. I finished first in some mini leagues. Obviously that's always going to be a plus. My biggest achievement was that, like last season, I was able to nail all the chips. That's really good, and chips is very difficult, actually, especially this season with the amount of ups and downs that have happened all season with the postponements. But there we go. Gnabry to Arsenal, what do you think? I think it's a good signing, but Arsenal need to focus on a striker and a central midfielder, a quality central midfielder, and then Gnabry would be that kind of premium signing that could get, Arsenal fans excited again. There's no agreement as of now between Bayern Munich and Serge Gnabry. Yeah, apparently Gnabry feels undervalued because they are putting more efforts into signing Koeman. And Koeman seems to be the first choice winger for them right now. Quite surprising. Gnabry had an incredible 2019-20 season. He was integral to their Champions League winning campaign. But yeah, I'd love to see him back at Arsenal. I think he still has a score to settle. And yeah, I think Sane's still quality. Bayern have a lot of good wingers, but if they get Mane, they're going to have to offload Gnabry, I think, yeah. Bayern offered their salary by 10 million euros net year. Yeah, let's wait and see what happens, but I'm not too sure if Gnabry will go to Arsenal in the end. Thoughts on United attacking next season? I think it will improve, but I don't think I'd be that tempted by Ronaldo, especially if he's going to be 12 million wrong. I don't think he's going to be 12 million, by the way. If he is, that's insanity. But unless Ronaldo is like 10 million or less, I don't think I'd be considering him. As for Bruno, maybe I'll heal into my thoughts. Is there anyone else? Maybe Sancho. I think he could be one that really improves under Ten Hag, but it's a lot of speculation. As things stand, I don't think I'm going for any United player next season. I want to see things. I want to see some progress before really going for them. 141 points with the triple captaincy, and my most memorable was the 36 game week. Bench boost that I had planned from way back. Yeah, really good scores. 123 with a bench boost, 141 with the triple captain. That looks really good. And there you go. I mean, the likes of Barnes returning double digits. That's really good, mate. I also managed 90 points in Gameweek 37 without any chips. That's impressive. And I saw a few people do that, having really good scores without using any chips, and that's impressive. Without the free hit, I would have scored 22 points in 37. That's something I forgot to mention when talking about that. That is absolutely mad. Can't wait to see Gnabry's celebration. What if he scores against Chelsea, though? That's the thing. Newcastle win Premier League next season? Nah, I don't think so. I think they'll finish in the top 8, maybe even higher. I think City win the league, personally. Do you know any Nottingham Forest players to target? I think Jed Spence. Yeah, Spence is the one, and you just mentioned him. But is he going to stay at Nottingham Forest next season? The likes of Spurs, Arsenal, and United are constantly linked to him. I think Samba's another decent option. And like I said already, I need to make some more research into all of these teams to really make a concrete conclusion, and then I can provide that analysis in the preseason videos. But I think Spence and Samba are pretty much two of the top ones. Spence being number one right now. From a 1 million ranking Gameweek 6 to 153k, I really enjoyed this season, backed my gut a few times and felt good even when the moves didn't pay off. That's the way to go, and having a positive mindset, and that's a really good turnaround actually. Brennan Johnson, that's a nice shout there. Will Greenwood be back, or is he done? I personally think he's done, but let's wait and see. Is it time Salah became a forward in FPL? But even Son as well. I think both of them should be a forward potentially. The thing is though, if Salah's a forward, that would just put us off him even more so. And I think FPL want us to go for the likes of Salah and Son. So they've got some really tough decisions to make. If Salah is a midfielder, I'd still consider going without him and go for Son, for example, if he is indeed ranked as a midfielder. What do you think Liverpool should do now? And I've got a little suggestion, maybe a channel team where we decide the team in the live streams. A channel team? Oh, that's a good nice suggestion. So do you mean like, for example, you guys vote for like a best free hit team for every week? Is that what you're talking about? Or let me know what you mean by that. But that concept does seem interesting on paper. From Gameweek 30 onwards, my rank kept oscillating between the 100k and 200k marks. That's pretty much where I was at, between, I'd say, the middle period of the season. So if we go back to it again, 1 second, I think this is it. So if we go back to it, 100 to 200k, Gameweek 22 or Gameweek 23 technically, all the way to Gameweek 28. That's where I kind of kept oscillating up and down between the ranks that you just said. So I think we all had different periods where we struggled and did well, but in the end, I'm very happy to have ended the season strongly. I think my middle part of the season needed a lot of work, and the big double game weeks need a lot of improvement for next season, and a lot of it was kind of explained already in what we just said earlier on. Targeting 100k rank and better for next season now, I think that's definitely achievable. It will be tougher compared to this season, but still possible. From the teams coming up, I'm looking at Samba, Spence, Garner, as a 4.5, Johnson, Solanke, Mitrovic. I think Surridge is also a decent one, as mentioned earlier by Harry. I think those are all good options. Let's wait and see though. Mo Salah has 0 non-penalty goals in 11 finals now, the biggest ghost on the biggest stage. I still think he played well yesterday, but of course, if you don't score, especially after the comments he made, you're always, the limelight will be on you. I think Mane was worse yesterday, I believe, although Mane was man of the match in the FA Cup final, or at least one of the better players. So I think a lot is made of that, but let's wait and see. I'm going to go now through my FPL team of the season before wrapping up. My voice is gone, I'll be honest, it is gone. Now, despite how poor Ramsdale and Sarr have been, I think I'd still include them in this team. And there's a reason why I went for them in the Gameweek 26 wildcard. Unfortunately, it just didn't really pay off in the end, but they would be in my team of the season. Let me know, by the way. I want to see your thoughts. So comment in the live chat. Would you go for Ramsdale and Sarr as the best goalkeepers? I'd personally go for Jose Sarr first. I think he's a bit more surprising in a way. I know a lot of people doubted Ramsdale as a signing in general, and he still did well generally. But I think for me, Jose Sarr was number one in terms of the goalkeepers in FPL. You also have to factor in the prices. Otherwise, you just go for the highest scoring in each position, and it'd be Alisson. I also want to try stick to FPL rules if possible, with kind of 3 players of each team. Let me know if you want to see that. Otherwise, I'll go for 4 or 5 Liverpool players potentially, and maybe Spurs as well. I think Callum Wilson's always someone to keep an eye on, but his fitness is always a concern for me. But yes, if he stays injury-free, he's definitely one to target, especially with Newcastle providing better quality service, and I think they will push on next season. I actually thought about an account just for the channel, but what you said could also be very good, but you don't have to change something, just keep working as you do, it's great. No, but I think, so I actually thought about account. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in terms of I always try to keep it quite interactive, in the streams, and also I always put polls out, but that could be something in terms of letting you guys decide, for example, having a best free hit team, and having more of your selections that you do in the polls feature in the videos. But there's definitely ways of improving the content. I'm looking to do so. So I'm going to go through the rest of it, and then we'll kind of go through your questions and thoughts. But I think I will go for something like this. So Saka will feature, I think. Son, Kulusevski, oof. Jarrod Bowen has to be in it, by the way. Jarrod Bowen has to be in the team. I think I'd also consider Mason Mount potentially. So this is interesting, because if it was like a personal team of the season, I wouldn't go for Sarr. I'd go for Ramsdale potentially, and I'd change a few things. But in terms of overall team of the season, I think I'd go for something like this. I'd go for Robertson, Trent, Laporte, Cancelo, but you could arguably go for Matip over Laporte. But I am going to go for Salah. I think Salah still has to be in it. You can't forget how good he's been all season. I think I'm actually going to get rid of Mason Mount though. So Salah comes in. Let's see. This is where it gets interesting. So I think I'd still go for Pukki as the third striker potentially. He was awful for me, but generally, he was up there. Vardy would have been in it, but he just didn't get enough minutes really for me. I like Maddison, to be fair. He could come in for Kulusevski. So look, I think this kind of starting 11 speaks for itself. In terms of player of the season, I'd give it to Salah personally, and Son vice captain. So that's kind of the way I'd go about it. I think Harry Kane would feature in the team of the season. His first half, he did ghost. Yeah, KDB, yeah, that's a really good shout. Who would you go for him though? For Kulusevski, right? I think, yeah, it has to be Kulusevski. Yeah, De Bruyne's second half of the season is incredible. You have to go for him. I agree. And I'd go for double City defence. A lot of people would go for a Chelsea defender like James or Rudiger. I still think these four and Matip were better, so therefore I'm sticking with these lot. But yeah, there we go. So now what we really need to kind of sort out are these three players. So a defender and two forwards. Let me know what you would go for. I'd be very interested to see. Yeah, so I made all the difference. I could be missing out on loads of points every week from the second half of the season. Yeah, there you go. But that's also kind of a decision that went in your favour. I mean, we'll have it. And it's a bit of luck, technically, but also patience from your part to stick with some. Yeah, so let me know if you have any more thoughts about this team. But yeah, I'm kind of in two minds about this. So look, if I'm allowed to go for more than 3 players from one team, then I probably would go for Matip, I think. Although I do like balancing out a little bit more and maybe going for a Reece James or an Antonio Rudiger, for example. But yeah, for me, it's between Matip and James. I'm quite conflicted about that one, to be honest. So yeah, that will be quite an interesting one to see. 1 second. This is a pretty tough one, I have to say. Just the rest of the team, but I think most of it is quite self-explanatory and easy. Yeah, I think Cash is also up there, by the way. I think Cash with his Gameweek 28 performance in particular. Trying to see if there's any kind of cheap player. Obviously, Livramento was good at one point, but I don't think he was anywhere near consistent enough to feature in this team. I think I'm going to go for Matip and go for another player, Liverpool player. Yeah, Superstar says Cash, fair enough. Yeah. All right, we'll stick with Cash. But like I said, if I'm able to go for more than 3 players from one team, I'm definitely going for Matip for sure. As you can see, we're well over budget, so I don't think budget really matters here. In terms of forwards, I think Ronaldo's still... Look, in terms of an FPL asset, not too good, but overall team of the season, I'd arguably put him over Kane, in my opinion. I think Ronaldo scoring 18 goals in that United team is more impressive than what Harry Kane has done this season. Yeah, okay, I think I'm going to go for Pukki. As an FPL option, by the way, let's make it very specific. This is an FPL team of the season, so I would go for Pukki as my third striker. And I think I'll go for Ronaldo still. Thank you for the FPL UCL fantasy content and the overall content you create for us. I wish you great success, sincerely. Thank you, lad. Thank you very much. It's great to hear that, and it's great to see you here. And I think you've tuned in once before. I'm not sure if you changed your YouTube name or anything like that, but thank you very much for that. It means a lot, and it's been a blast with all these streams and videos. And if you've got any comments on this kind of FPL team of the season, then let me know. I think I will go for these 2 goalkeepers. I think I'm going to go for Ronaldo still. It's just I'm trying to think of another striker. Dennis, no, not for me. He had a really good period from like Gameweek 7 to 15, I think it was. But Ivan Toney and Richarlison decent. Also Vardy whenever he plays, but the minutes weren't really there. Ivan Toney's not too bad. I think I'm going to go for this. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Ronaldo. Although he's just not worth that 12 million. But in terms of double game weeks for the most part, apart from Game Week 22, he was very, very good, I think. So there we go. Thought of doing Kane to Son for a hit would come back to bite me. That basically was the difference, and I think I could have finished in the top within 100k if not for that. Yeah, yeah, it is what it is. I don't think it was worth it either way, to be honest. Obviously, after Son had that incredible period of 3 double-digit returns in a row, I think that's when most people would have done the hit from Kane to Son. But look, it's very easy to look back on it now. But yeah, before that period, Kane was touted as the better option of the two by far. That's pretty much how it was. Thanks for all the help throughout the season. Thank you, Aranya. And yeah, thank you very much, Aranya, as always. It's much appreciated, and also for being a channel member. And thank you to all the channel members and Patreons. A big shout out to all of you for supporting the channel all season. It's always a blast. I think in terms of the starting 11 for this kind of team that we've got here, I think I'd go about it this way. So if I had to rank it, yeah, maybe Ronaldo will be last because in terms of value, he was the worst. But look, in terms of team of the season, Premier League team of the season, I'd go for the likes of Rodri, Ronaldo, and a few others, you know, that don't make the FPL team of the season. But this is my FPL team of the season. Jose Sarr in goal, Robertson, Trent, Cancelo, Laporte. I think Matip is very unlucky not to be in this. Saka, Bowen, Son, De Bruyne, Salah, Kane up front, Ramsdale, Cash, Pukki and Ronaldo. But like I said before, overall team of the season, for me, Ronaldo's better than Kane this year. And also there'd be a few changes like Rodri, who doesn't get enough credit. I think he should be in the team of the season as well. Also Bernardo Silva, who is kind of completely forgotten about. Yeah, Richardson's a good shout. I think end of the season, yeah, Game Week 37 he was incredible. Game Week 31 he was really good. I think Richarlison's a good shout as well. It's Ronaldo or Richarlison, I think. That's a really good shout as well. I like that superstar. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in for this kind of season review. And if there's any more comments or any questions that you want answered, leave them in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. We're trying to reach new heights next year. 15,000 is the next big target, and it's all thanks to you lot. So thank you very much as always. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. DylanRCM is Dylan_RCM on Instagram. All the best of luck for, I was going to say UCL Fantasy, well, F1 Fantasy if you play that, and also for FPL next season. But enjoy the summer break, and there's going to be more content throughout. It's going to be a bit calmer, so there won't be videos and streams every single day as you've probably been accustomed to recently, but there will still be quite a lot of content considering the fact that it is a summer break. Take care, enjoy the football as always. I wish you all the very best in your endeavours, and I hope you have a great summer, and I'll see you next time. It's been a blast. Thank you very much.